Check. Are we checking? Check. I think that sounds all right. Hype train right out of the gate. Ready, excited. Hold on one second. Should I be wearing more clothing, though? I think I should probably. Sorry, I've been running around doing. Oh, God. It's so much stuff going on. Hi, how you doing? 1 second. I'll be right back. I'm going to put on another shirt. Talk amongst yourselves. Let's see. Nope, that's inappropriate. Oh, that breaks some laws. Let's see. This is, you know what? I think this is the one. I think I found the one, and I think it's important. Just keep talking amongst yourselves. It's totally fine. I just think there should be a moment where so run like this. Oh, I dropped my. Excuse me 1 second. If I might try to grab my headphones. They fell down here. I'm sorry about that. I'm over here somewhere. Where did it go? There's another one around here somewhere. That's that guy. And then I have one earphone. Where'd the other one go? That's fine or whatever. It's just so much going on. I hardly say. There it is. I spotted it. But I just gotta blow the cat hair off of it. Hi, everybody. Welcome. That's better. You vote for no shirt. Wait till I gotta save something for 100K. Is Ficus's brain okay? I don't know. You'll have to ask him yourself, I think. You know what I mean? I'm doing okay now. I was worried about it, but I'll be fine. Don't y'all worry about it. Everything good. Well, most of it. Actually, I'd say about 22 out of 5 things. 3 out of... Shit, every time I do math, I smell almonds. Yeah, he's doing fine. So, hi. Welcome. Lots going on today, not the least of which is... I always have a lot on my plate in terms of viewing material. You guys know this, that just keeping up between shows with what's the current talking points, all the stuff, whatever the current arguments are that the right is using, and keeping track of all those is, I gotta say, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So I want to say thank you to the most lovely and generous audience that is out there for the super chats and the hype train we got right out of the gate, and for supporting via these things and all that stuff. God bless you. Thank you so much. We're 4/6 of our way towards a new computer, thanks to you guys. So keep it up. Thank you very much. Now that you saw nipples, I apologize. I was trying to drive by there. They're cute though, aren't they? They're nice. They're I'm proud of them. All right. Anyways, that's another conversation for another time when I start my only howls. All right. Now, this guy. We have been dealing with this dickhead on the Democratic side of things for the last little bit, and now apparently he is someone else's problem. He is now the Republican Party's problem, and because they have embraced him more than we have, than Democrats have at all, and you could argue that he is now, if he's siphoning votes from anyone, he's siphoning them from Republicans. So it's fairly hilarious. Now, I would like to, and this is, we can all admit we were young once, you know, we believed whatever little sales pitch came along, anybody that appealed to our ego or lack therein, we were, oh really? You like the way I smell? That kind of stuff. I get it. Yeah, he used to be on Ring of Fire. But there's some people back in the day that I was like, I like that dude. I like the cut of his jib. I like the fact that he's, lefty and all that kind of stuff and is for the things I'm for. And he says all the things I like to hear. He must be a good person. And then you find out years later, they're a paid stooge of foreign interests. And you do all the work necessary. And I think I've done fairly well. All the work necessary to not let it destroy your trust and belief in your own ideas and in people who espouse the same things going forward, because that's kind of what they're there for. That's what they're there to do, right? So I'm talking about this guy right here. This is Dennis Kucinich. Dennis Kucinich was the mayor of Cleveland, was a Democratic congressional representative from Cleveland, the area around that. Yes, I am CSL. No, this is a small one. I have a bigger one for you. Yours is a Jersey style, and I've still got it. Can I show you something? This is where to go. Well, I moved that out of the room so it wouldn't get knocked over. Sorry. I'll show you later. Today's a scattered show. I'm just going to walk around there. All right. So Dennis Kucinich was one of those guys that a long time ago I was like, I like that dude. I think he says some of the correct things. Yeah. Politically. So on the right side of history, or trying to be, especially around the Iraq War, which quite frankly, it was pretty easy to be. You were either in the you're with us or against us yellow cake crowd, which as I recall was everyone around me was like, that's a bunch of bullshit, but none of us could do anything to stop it because, you know, apparently the Dem-leaning independents, progressives in that crowd were like, I don't know if I like John Kerry that much. So they stayed home and allowed Bush 2 to have 2 terms and be number 2 over and over and over again. And Kucinich largely ran as a spoiler to the left of his fellow Democrats, and in sort of a strategy to undermine their chance of getting elected in a general election for fear of having to fight off. He's like, think of him as a draft version of Bernie Sanders in some ways, right? And then it turns out that, and I don't know if anybody saw his interview on Fox News with Assad, the president of Syria, where he basically gave him Dennis Kucinich did the softball interview with Assad to help him deny that the Syrian government had attacked their own people with chemical weapons. He was one of the primary people that did that. He's now running his campaign. He's now a campaign chair. Yeah. The guy who intentionally ran to the left of other Democrats to try and drag them into, an extremist point of view so that other voters would make them would be uncomfortable, maybe going Democratic ways for fear that, these guys are going to have to placate that group. And therefore I don't trust them. So I'll just lean back. I won't change horses midstream. Let's keep George W. Bush. Yeah. He also got paid $20,000 to give a paid pro-Assad speech and had to return the money. At the same time, interestingly enough, he got $3,000 towards his campaign from none other than Marianne Williamson. Yeah. Hi, Booger Man. What's happening? Booger. All right. Don't get me kicked off the air like Johnny Fever. Yeah. So there you go. So just to catch up. So at the same time, Bashar al-Assad was giving $20,000 through puppet groups to him to pay him to make a speech and then conduct a softball interview on Fox News to help him hide the fact that he killed his own people, 500,000 of his own citizens, including 50,000 children, and then he gassed people and all that kind of stuff. To help him rehab that image, he called in Dennis Kucinich. Fucking sad. And now he's behind this guy. Literally and figuratively. He's literally there. He's literally sitting at the hearing. Okay, so this is from today. This is from Robert F. Kennedy spoke on a panel on weaponizing the government, the House Weaponization Committee. The government has been weaponized against him. Now, we have covered some of this stuff already as far as their theories about this, because this panel has been going on for a while. And let me state right out of the gate, that the Twitter files are a hilarious piece of Orwellian fanfic that amounted to, I think the phrase is fuck all. because, and as Dan Goldman points out at one point, I watched the a good portion of these today. As Dan Goldman points out, if the companies can ever say no, then there's no coercion. If you either have control or you do not. If they agree with you sometimes but don't agree with you other times, that's not control. That's not censorship. That's not the US government telling social media and other companies what they can and cannot do. As a matter of fact, the minute they can say no, all bets are off. It is now simply them hearing some advice and some information saying we agree with some of it and we don't agree with other. That's it. Not a crime, not a denial of civil rights, nothing. And the only person in the White House to threaten social media companies if they don't take down someone's posts about that are direct criticisms of that person in the White House was Donald John Trump. So that said, this is his opening statement. And let me tell you, Howard Dean, you're off the hook. I'm going to warn you guys. At one point, Lip Spittle makes an appearance and stays there for the rest of the talk. I have a thing about that. Yeah, it's yeah. Oh God, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. And you'll notice also, see how it says 9 minutes and 5 seconds right here? See that? Okay. All the witnesses are allowed 5 minutes to speak. Do you think the Republicans are giving more time to people? Never mind. We'll get there. Okay. And I believe it is Debbie Wasserman Schultz who says 5 minutes on the clock because they had given him 10 or something.
Maybe we could put 5 minutes on the clock then, not 10.
Could we put 5 on the clock and we'll start it running?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to.
Oh, I want to clarify. Some people ask about his voice all the time. He has he has vocal paralysis on one of his vocal cords. That's why he talks the way he does. It is not, in my estimation, a point of criticism for him. If it was a self-inflicted wound because he was guzzling heroin back in the day and you could argue that it was a self-inflicted injury. Insofar as I know, it is not. So that's the least of our worries. If his voice bothers you, I apologize. You have a hard time understanding what he's saying. Ask me and I'll try and translate gibberish as best I can. And I don't mean gibberish because of how he's saying something, but because of what he's actually saying.
I want to put aside my written statement
which is a mistake.
a moment and address one of the points that was brought up, I think an important point by the ranking member, that this body ought to be concerning itself with with issues that impact directly the American people, the rising price of groceries,
Okay. He's running for president, so he's trying to dovetail this into a campaign stop. And he starts with kitchen table issues because as a Kennedy, that's something he knows well. I'm fairly certain if there's a single person in this room that's never had to buy groceries, like they did because their grandmother said everybody in the family's going to go buy groceries, otherwise people are going to shit on us because we're rich. It's him.
6% over the past 2 years for basic food stuff, the war in Ukraine, the inflation issues, the border issues, many, many other issues that concern us all as a nation. We can't do that without the First Amendment, without debate. When I gave my speech, my announcement speech in Boston 2 months ago, YouTube, I talked about all those issues. I focused on grocery. I focused on the fact that working class people can no longer afford to live in this country.
Yeah, that is not the case. Honest to God, things are expensive. Things will continue to get expensive because the nicer things will become more widely available, and life sort of catches up to that. I'll get to the details if we need be, but the idea that he's like working class people can't afford to live in this country. This guy thinks that the working poor are quote unquote working class people, and anybody in the lower middle class or the middle class or whatever doesn't count. Like the upper 1% is 80% of the populace, because that's the only people he ever meets.
I talked about inflation, all the issues that deeply concern you, and that you've devoted your career to alleviating those issues. 5 minutes into my speech, when I was talking about Paul Revere, YouTube deplatformed me. I didn't talk about vaccines in that speech. I didn't talk about anything that was a verboten subject. I just was talking about my...
Also, I don't know what the shit he's talking about. Like, if they took down his live stream someplace for any series of reasons, or if they had an eyeball on him, or he had already had a strike, or somebody else put a strike on his channel, which is, you guys know, we've dealt with this a bunch. People will go in and say, this person is threatening harm, blah, 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 instantly to fuck with him. And in his case, it would absolutely make sense to be a strategy by those around him. Like, we'll call in an airstrike on our own thing and say we're being deplatformed because they don't want to hear his truth, and we'll use that because it's better than hearing him actually speak. I'm dead serious. This is how they would think about
campaign and things, the conversation that we ought to be having with each other as Americans. But I was shut down, and that is why the First Amendment's important.
Okay, for the record, if they shut him down because they were concerned about doing anti-vax stuff, then they should have done it when he was actually saying anti-vax stuff. But there's no fucking way that YouTube censored him because he was talking about Paul Revere or inflation. Good Lord, how many videos have I covered over and over that cover every single topic that he's bringing up as if nobody gives a shit?
Debate, congenial, respectful debate is the...
Oh, but Pfizer and Moderna and Johnson & Johnson are engaged in a depopulation scheme, and Jews and Chinese people are running the whole thing. But, you know, I mean that respectfully in terms of a balanced debate.
The fertilizer, it's the water, it's the sunlight for our democracy. We need to...
Can't be all three.
...to be talking to each other. Now, this is a letter that many of you signed. Many of my fellow Democrats. I've spent my life in this party. I've devoted my life to the values of this party.
Yeah, except the whole thing about telling people that, you know, vaccines are going to kill their kids and make their brains stop working, and thereby contributing to unnecessary death because you're scaring people away from vaccines that you give to your own children. What the fuck?
This 102 people signed this. This itself is evidence of the problem that this hearing was convened to address. This is an attempt to censor a censorship hearing.
No. This is, they have issues with one of the witnesses that the other side is bringing forward as representative of the Democratic Party and giving a platform and a microphone to somebody who's running against the current sitting president and is going to use this as a campaign stop. And they have, and on top of that, he's an anti-vaxxer who basically, by the way, lies about his own family's vaccination and his own most of the time to the people that he talks to about vaccinations for years and years and years.
The charge is in this, and by the way, censorship is antithetical to our party. It was appalling to my...
Also, you're not being censored if you're just not given a microphone because you're suggesting stupid shit, or you're actively willing to be a tool of the other party in a politicized hearing. It's not the same fucking thing. Nobody's censoring you. Nobody. This fucker's got every possible social media outlet he could possibly want. He can create a newsletter. The government's not going to knock on his fucking door. Nothing.
My father, to my uncle, to FDR, to Harry Truman, to Thomas Jefferson, as the chairman referred to. It is the basis for democracy. It sets us apart from all of the previous forms of government. We need to be able to talk, and the First Amendment was not written for easy speech.
Yeah, but it also isn't a protection against foreign interference speech. even if it's like if people can hear it, whatever. They're welcome to listen to whatever the fuck they want. But if they're going to carry it and they're doing it for money, and they're using social media as the conduit to feed foreign influence campaigns into the American political system and the political discourse, that's not free and open speech. That's manipulation. And nobody like the idea that you would use the freedom of association clause means that because people have the freedom of association, they're allowed to come into your house, open the door whenever they want, because they are allowed to freely associate with you, even if you don't want to associate with them. That's why you had the fucking door closed.
It was written.
Yeah, and this is about the weaponization of government and the idea that they censor people on social media. That's what supposedly this is about.
For the speech that nobody likes you for. And I was censored not just by the Democratic administration, I was censored by the Trump administration.
Which is interesting because the case they bring up that was stayed recently, that that the Trump judge filed against Biden to keep them from being able to interact with social media companies, that, you know, the Republicans were putting this great 180 pages and it proves that they were manipulated. All happened, that like 80% of what they're complaining about happened under Trump and ended under Biden. And yet Donald Trump is not mentioned in the suit at all. Does that not seem odd to you? Does that bother anybody else? Just me? Okay.
I was the first person censored by as the chairman pointed out, by the Biden administration 2 days after it came into office. Anti-Semitism.
Wait a minute. This is edited. What'd they cut out? Hang on. No. That's not how this works, kids. No. Whoever's posting the clips from this, you don't get to cut out the part where he fucks his own argument. Hold on one second. Let's see. No, let's see. Okay. Weaponization. Maybe a committee thing. Gonna pick up the okay.
Tag me and lock me in a
True.
Hold on.
You've identified
Right.
Information.
defined. You can't make this stuff up. It's on broad.
Okay, hold on one second. They're trying to grab the whole. Yeah, here you go.
Freedom of Information law after a year of litigation.
Mm-mm. I'm gonna find the. Yeah, here you go. It's the House thing on weaponization. Here we go. There you go.
The First Amendment without debate. When I gave my speech, my announcement speech
so here we
in
go.
Boston, and they applied to me to silence me because Jefferson is a chairman of the First Amendment without debate. When I gave my speech, my announcement speech in Boston 2 months ago, YouTube, working class people can know issues that deeply concern you and that you've devoted your career to alleviating those issues. 5 minutes into my speech, we ought to be having with each other as Americans. But I was shut down. And that is why the First Amendment's important. Debate, congenial, respectful debate.
Okay. I want you to hear all of what he said, and I don't want anybody to think I took any context out of what he says.
Is the fertilizer, it's the water, it's the sunlight for our democracy. We need to be talking to each other. Now, this is a letter, and many of
Yeah, they
voted
wrote.
my
Hold on.
hearing was convened to address. This is an attempt to censor a censorship hearing. The charges in this, and by the way, censorship is antithetical to our party. It was appalling to my father, to my uncle, to FDR, to Harry Truman, that Thomas Jefferson, as the chairman, referred to.
Were you related to all of them? Now you're just bragging.
Is the basis for democracy. It sets us apart from all of the previous forms of government. We need to be able to talk, and the First Amendment was not written for easy speech. It was written for the speech that nobody likes you for. But
it was also, I would argue, the First Amendment was written for American citizens, that the standard applies, you know, and the quality of life provided by the Constitution requires that as a citizen, you pledge yourself to the Constitution and are a part of, are a citizen specifically of the country for those rules to apply. We've even expanded those rules to apply to people who are just visiting, because that's how our country works. But it does not apply to the Internet Research Agency run by Prigozhin and accounts that go, yes, I'm Johnny America. Fuck out of here. And I will say that I was disappointed that during this entire thing that I saw anyway, somebody might have, but I didn't see anybody bring up the fact that, can you prove that the accounts that you're talking about, vast majority of them were even American citizens? I know they say they are, but can you prove that they actually are? Or that that they weren't even contracting Americans to just flood stuff in? And because they were in some cases. So this would be a trap for them to walk into.
I was censored not just by the Democratic administration, I was censored by the Trump administration. I was the first person censored by as the chairman pointed out, by the Biden administration 2 days.
Or were you the last person censored by the Trump administration?
Days after it came into office. It ordered a truthful, and by the way, they had to invent a new word called malinformation to censor people like me. There was no misinformation on my Instagram account.
By the way, they didn't create that word just for him. Malinformation is very specific. So the example I would give, somebody comes up and says, there are broken streetlights between here and your destination where you're driving to. And so some of the red lights and green lights aren't working. That may be materially true. But if the idea is don't trust streetlights, that's malinformation. That's the difference between misinformation, which is that street light is busted or that one isn't when it is vice versa. But when you say that I'm trying to get you to not trust traffic lights by saying something that is materially true about one intersection between here and there without saying which intersection specifically. It is malinformation is specific to trying to use the truth as a lie.
Everything I put on that account was cited and sourced.
Yes, this would be called HAL information. It's the good stuff.
Peer-reviewed publications or government databases. Nobody has ever pointed to a single piece of misinformation that I publish.
That's because early studies that are either debunked later or found not to be the case through meta-studies where it doesn't prove itself out, that doesn't make that original study misinformation, because all of those studies end with, single-use studies all the time end with, there needs to be more information, we need to look into this more. And then they do a meta study which looks at all of them and says, no, that's not materially true. That does not mean that the scientists who ran the first fucked up study were engaged in misinformation. They just either did not have the funding, or they were hyper-focused, or they didn't have any exculpatory information that would make them recognize that it wasn't the case. Science grows with new information. What he wants to do is stop the growing information at a certain point when it engages with what he wants to sell. That's what malinformation is.
I was removed for something they called malinformation. Malinformation is information that is true, but is inconvenient to the government.
No, it is not inconvenient to the government. It is the truth used as a lie. And by the way, it is one of the primary reasons why Mark Twain said there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. Statistics are true in terms of whether you found them out and the percentage to which they apply. It's not even like polling specifically. But the idea that somehow your life and your ability to do anything should be curtailed by what happens 20% of the time or 30% of the time, and directing people based on statistics that's what they should be primarily concerned with, can be used to malinform people, to not, I would argue it's misinformation. But to take the truth of that statistical narrative and apply it more broadly than it actually can happen. And I'll give you an example. One of the things that they brought up in this, and Elise Stefanik introduced this thing, was this idea that there was a poll done that said if 53% of Biden voters hadn't heard about the Hunter Biden laptop story in December of 2020, after the election, and that 17% of Democrats would have changed their vote had they known this information. Okay. That, you hear that one all the time. I know you guys have heard that 17% horse shit over and over again. Okay. That study is done with, I think, like 198 people, the majority of whom are Republicans. It's a weighted towards Republican trend. And the idea was, in this narrow casting of people who had voted for, had heard about the Hunter Biden laptop or had not, only about 40% of that group had heard the full story, right? Of that story, it is weighted Republican, so more people hadn't heard about it that were Republican in this slicing study. So it gets smaller and smaller and smaller to we're around 20 fucking people. And the idea was, of the people that said it would have changed their vote, that's that 24% that said it would have changed their vote, over 50% of those people in this group of 20 that they had sliced down further and further and further into were Republicans. Trump got 96% of the Republican vote. Does anybody believe that the 198 people that they picked, all those folks that were Republican voted for Joe Biden? Right, you get my point. Garbage. So they end up talking to 8 people, effectively, that were Democrats that said, people who said they were Democrats, who said they voted for Joe Biden, who said they'd never heard the story about the Hunter Biden laptop, and if they had, it very well may have changed their vote. Okay, so you're talking about less than a dozen people. And Elise Stefanik she offers into the congressional record later on in this hearing. She'll hold up a piece of paper. I want this entered in. This is a poll conducted that says 17% of Americans who voted for Joe Biden would have changed their vote had they heard about the Hunter Biden laptop story. That's what I would call malinformation. That's where you turn 12 individuals, hyper sliced down into a poll, into 17% of Democrats in the country. Yeah. Horseshit.
That they don't want people to hear. And that's antithetical to the values of our country. After I announced my presidency, it became more difficult for people to censor me outright. So now I'm subject to this new form of censorship, which is called targeted propaganda.
Oh, I see. So, first of all, Barack Obama and his birth certificate would like a fucking word. Cry me a river. Secondly, the targeted propaganda is the methodology of Kennedy's anti-vax stances over years. And you're going to hear him defend himself, I have no doubt, based on that idea.
Where people apply pejoratives like anti-vax. I've never been anti-vaccine.
I don't know if he just gained more votes than he lost or lost more votes than he's gained. I've never been anti-vaccine. Look at this guy's face right up there behind him, the guy next to Kucinich. It's like,
but everybody in this room probably believes that I have been, because that's the prevailing narrative. Anti-Semitism, racism, these are the most appalling, disgusting pejoratives, and they're applied to me.
Okay, couple things. We have talked many times about the non-apology apology kids, have we not? We've also talked about our dear friend, our old friend, the word outrageous. When people are, it is outrageous that people, okay. Saying that these are the most horrifying things you can be called is, listen to him say it again. I want to be real clear.
Just appalling, disgusting pejoratives, and they're applied to me.
Okay. Anti-Semitism, being called an anti-Semite, and being called a racist are the most appalling, disgusting pejoratives to call someone. No, they aren't. The actual pejoratives that anti-Semites use and racists use against other people are the most appalling pejoratives, because you are not, my dear sir, being N-worded in public. You are not being denied entry to a golf course in 1947 because of you wear the wrong hat on the weekend. All right.
To silence me, because
Also, does anybody think this would have come up if he hadn't said what he said last week? I'm dead serious. This fucker's sitting in an Upper East Side restaurant talking about how the Chinese are spending hundreds of millions of dollars on ethnically targeted diseases, and it goes after whites and blacks, and it leaves Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese alone. And he says this like he's fucking shrugging it off, and he's running for president of the United fucking States, and he yammers this during a Q&A with no sense of the repercussions or what it's saying, which in and of itself should be disqualifying. Even if you didn't believe it, just the laziness with which you would blather this shit in public should disqualify you from being president. The idea that these assholes want to go after Biden for being gaffe prone. Yeah, all right.
people don't want me to have that conversation about the war, about groceries, about inflation.
Nobody gives a shit about your conversation about the war and groceries and inflation. You are not being singled out because you bring up groceries got expensive. What the living shit?
About the war on the middle class in this country that we need to be having. And
Yes. Joe Biden has he won't even bring up the middle class except as his main base of support, and that his focus is on growing the middle class from the bottom up and the middle out. It is literally the central talking points of his presidency. Nobody is being censored because they're bringing up the struggles of the middle class over the last 3 decades. Everybody talks about that.
by the way, I want to say this
Oh, dear.
while I'm on the record, that in my entire life, and why I'm under oath,
You're under oath because everybody else is under. Everybody there. Everybody on the panel swore under oath. Are you telling me you came down to this weaponization hearing? You asked to be a person at the weaponization so you could be put under oath in front of the American people and swear to this? By the way, in front of a committee that has no interest in calling you on it if you did fucking lie, because you're there lying on their behalf.
in my entire life, I have never uttered a phrase that was either racist or anti-Semitic.
All right. I got to say, I don't think this is how he thought his campaign would be going a couple of months ago. Also, that's a lie. Because in conversation, even repeating what somebody else, this guy said such and such, which was racist or anti-Semitic, everyone in my audience or anywhere else, I don't care who you are, have said things you don't believe and that you're against to convey what was said to another person. The question I would have in those moments is, how defensive did you get about them at the time? Would be, I guess, part of the conversation if it needed to go further because your current behavior struck everybody as fucking weird.
I have spent my life fighting my professional career, fighting for Israel, for the protection of Israel. I have a better record on Israel than anybody in this chamber today.
Oh my God, he's going straight Trump. Nobody, I am the best thing that ever happened to everybody. That's what he's, okay. First of all, well, second of all, I guess, the Republicans on that panel are all gonna, probably want to take him out right now because they're all jumping over themselves to say they're the person who's done the most for Israel ever. That said, also, he is losing support right now amongst his tiny little cadre of supporters by saying this. Normally, this would be a thing that would grow your support amongst the general public. In this particular case, he's simply knifing the tires of the people who supported him first out of the gate.
I'm
Hello,
the
Sarah.
only person who has publicly objected to the $2 billion payout that the Biden administration is now making to Iran, which is a genocidal program.
Okay, so the Biden administration is engaged in paying for genocide now. Now, remember last week, one of the things that people glossed over in his whole, like, the disease doesn't affect Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people, even though Dan Goldman, whose family is Ashkenazi, got COVID and brings it up later on. The idea that, one of the things that I think people didn't quite recognize as shocking and fucked up was that while he was saying that the Chinese are spending hundreds of millions of dollars creating ethnically targeted diseases, so are we. And I'm here to tell you that if anyone on earth is creating ethnically targeted diseases, the United States, being the most ethnically diverse country on the fucking planet, with crucial people of all races in every community in this goddamn country, 2,000 different religions, a myriad of different ethnic types, and intermixed so that even if you, like, we're only going to wipe out the Russians. That's what he said. They're collecting Russian and Chinese DNA. We're only going to do that. Oh, fuck. Everybody's got a little bit because it's America, man. We're mutts. Here's proof. His nose is cold. So the idea that that if anybody's creating a disease that will wipe out anybody but their racially homogenous country, the United States is going to have to spend twice as much defending it because you don't know ahead of time where it's coming from. To protect the American people, the most racially diverse group of people on the fucking planet under a single flag, you would have to guard against a myriad of groups who seek to wipe out everybody but their race on the planet. And there's a subgroup in the volume of people out there that the more there are of one particular group, the more the percentage, and here we go again on percentages, is a larger number of actual human beings. And between AI and CRISPR-Cas9, the ability to do a genetically modified disease, especially if you're only aiming at people that ain't you, grows all the time. It's a constant fucking threat. And so there are white supremacists and black supremacists and German supremacists and fucking Middle Eastern jihadis or whatever who would love to do that to everybody who isn't this particular slice of human. The problem you run into is, again, in this country, we're so interwoven, you don't know how that's going to affect everybody. And you don't know who's going to get there first. So if China's spending $100 million, like he says, on a disease that only kills anybody who isn't ethnically Han Chinese, for example, or doesn't have ethnically Han Chinese in their fucking background, if they're spending $100 million, it's going to cost us $100 billion to fight it off. Because you got to figure out what they might be trying to do. And if it's coming up and stuff shows up, you got to keep monitoring it all the goddamn time. And then what if these guys try it? What if these guys try it? What if But his idea was we're just setting up for an ethnic cleansing war that's gonna come, which is fucking straight up Manson
The
family
only one who's
horseshit.
objected to that. I fought more ferociously for Israel than anybody.
Methinks McKennedy doth protest too much.
But I am being censored here through this target, through smears, through misinterpretations of what I've said, through lies, through association, which is a tactic that we all thought we had been discredited and dispensed with after the Army McCarthy hearings in the 1950s.
Army McCarthy? Also, this is not an aspect of political voicing. This is not, are you or have you not been a member of the Communist Party or some shit like that? And sir, have you no decency, blah, blah, blah. All right. That's not what this is. This is specific to private companies not wanting, in the case of Facebook, for example, because their group, the people who use Facebook skews older and COVID kills older people, not wanting their constituents, their customers to die off at a faster clip while the midlife Twitter crowd survives. And also Instagram it is apportioned towards children and younger people who might be more vulnerable or might think they're not vulnerable and thereby get it or pass it on to somebody else. And so they might be a little more cautious and careful than, say, Twitter would be, or Parler, or Gab, or Telegram, or whatever the fuck.
But those same weapons are now being deployed against me to silence me. I know many of the people who wrote this letter. I don't believe there's a single person who signed this letter who believes I'm anti-Semitic.
No, I think they signed that letter going, shame on you for asserting this. And I'm question. Does he think, and this is, I'm going to step on something here if I'm not careful. Does he think being anti-Semitic is genetic? You think it's a gene? You think somebody just wakes up that way? Is it his version of born this way? Do you think anti-Semites, bigots, and racists are that way from childhood? Or through increasingly lower standards about the quality of information fed into their own fucking brain, do people eventually come around to an idea that is racist or sexist or anti-Semitic? Because I think wagging that piece of paper in the air and saying, I don't think anybody here believes I'm anti-Semitic, I think in reality, they might not have before, but I think they heard that shit last week and went, whoa, what the living shit is this? I mean, because half the time, oh, Karina, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Sometimes it pings on my watch when it does the thing. Make the thing ping. Venmo and Cash App makes my watch ping. I'm just saying. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. I'm the only person who dives into this stuff all the way through. I'm not taking little chunks of it. I'm not slicing something off so assholes like this can later on say, they took what I was saying out of context. I'm not. As a matter of fact, when there was a version of this that even looked like it was snipped, I dropped it and went to the whole fucking video. Because that's how we roll at Hal Sparks Megaworldwide. Thank you very much.
I do not believe that. There is no evidence of that. I want to.
There's some evidence of that. I mean, that's what the whole idea that it's ethnically targeted and Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people are somehow don't get affected by COVID, and the fact that you bring that up. Like, if you were simply just operating on the conspiracy theory that the Chinese created it and it wasn't a lab leak, it was a lab release. It was a full release. For those that
I had a beat off in his sock drawer.
That that if you were just trying to make the case that the Chinese did this to attack the world, you'd have left the Jews out of it, kinda. But by saying it's ethnically targeted and feeling the need to incorporate the fact that Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people are somehow immune to it and that it's an attack on white people and black people, it sounds like you scoop the Jews in there for the fucking purpose of blaming them. Yeah, it does. So I would say that is, some evidence. Is it full evidence? Is it? No. I don't know anybody who walks around in public that doesn't have a swastika tattoo or isn't a part of the Wagner group that automatically would qualify. I think a lot of people, the worst racists probably in terms of their impact, not in terms of who they are as human beings, are the ones who subtly can hide it and operate behind the scenes and pass, to use a phrase that I'm sure irritates them.
Say something I think that's more important, and it goes directly to what you talked about, ranking member, which is the need, this toxic polarization that is destroying our country today. And how do we deal with that? This kind of division is more dangerous for our country than any time since the American Civil War.
No. No, it isn't. It's honest to God. This fucker thinks, and it's a shame his father isn't alive for him to ask about the civil rights era, which he was largely, I think, high through.
And how do we deal with that? How are we going to, every Democrat on this committee believes that we need to end that polarization. Do you think you can do that by censoring people? I'm telling you, you cannot.
That's right. And also, none of them are trying to censor anybody. And is it censorship because people, if somebody posts a swastika or stands outside of Disneyland carrying a swastika flag and they associate themselves with Ron DeSantis or Donald Trump, and Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis applaud them for doing it without going, real quick, why do you have a giant Nazi? Where'd you get that? Did you make it yourself? Or because I would just say, like, I appreciate what you're doing, but can you do me a favor next time? Can you burn that? Oh no, we used it every Wednesday.
Only aggravates and amplifies the problem. We need to start being kind to each other.
Says the guy who believes that everybody works at Pfizer, Moderna, J&J, and all these companies are engaged in depopulation schemes. Depopulation. The guy who last week said, isn't it weird the Ashkenazi Jews and the Chinese are the people who survive it the most, which isn't true. And also, for the record, again, not only did Ashkenazi Jews get the disease, get COVID, whatever, but also China hides its real death toll. So the idea that it doesn't kill Chinese people is just fucking stupid. China, I'm here to tell you, China has the highest death toll of any country from COVID. Period. End of story. When Xi Jinping dies, or the truth comes out, or they finally have a situation where they get a Taiwan-like government and they have a truth and reconciliation thing, and they look back over that, there's going to be a minimum of 20 million dead in China from COVID-19. Minimum. And other diseases that have come up over the years in China that they have swept under the rug or hidden because they don't like the embarrassment, they don't like losing face on the international scene, that have killed way more than those fucking people.
We need to start being respectful to each other.
Then those diseases. I overlap myself.
To start restoring the comedy to this chamber and to the rest of America, but it has to start here. My uncle, Edward Kennedy, has more legislation with his name on it than any senator in United States history. Why is that? Because he was able to reach across the aisle, because he didn't deal in insults, because he didn't try to censor people. Yeah,
you're right. Last week, Trump said that apparently Ted Kennedy told him in passing that Joe Biden was the dumbest senator. Remember that?
He brought home people who were antithetical to what he believed in. He came home almost every weekend with people like Orrin Hatch to our house at the compound in Hyannisport. At that time, Orrin Hatch to me was like Darth Vader, because I was an environmentalist. And I was saying, why is Teddy bringing this guy home?
I would go, why are you still living at a compound as a grown man?
But he knew that he was effective because he understood.
You guys have a compound, right? Who doesn't? All right, who in the chat room doesn't have a compound? At least, well, there's got to be a one, right? One, there's got to be one. Who doesn't? Yeah, there's one person in here who doesn't have a compound. The rest of us all have compounds, right? We have compounds.
Understood that comedy and respect and kindness and compassion and empathy for other people is the way that the only way to restore the function in this chamber. But more importantly, today we need to give an example in the leadership of our country of being respectful to each other. If you think I said something that's anti-Semitic, let's talk about the details. I'm telling you all the things that...
Let's talk about the details. You know, people aren't responsible for like brooming up after you when you flippantly assert that the Chinese are working on ethnic-based bioweapons, and the Jews might be in on it by association. He's bitching about association, and he literally lumps them in together. You know, there's an argument that, yes, there's an argument against it as well. So shut the fuck up unless you have evidence, because what you're saying about human beings is fucking horrifying.
I'm accused of right now by you. And in this letter are distortions, they're misrepresentations. I didn't say those things. There's fragments.
Yeah, you did.
That I said, but...
There's fragments that I said. Yes, all over the floor, dummy.
I denounce anybody.
Oops. And by the way, there's our first major appearance of lip spittle. Fair warning. I will give you warning that MTG did not give when she was showing nude pictures of the president's son just for the shit of it.
Who uses the words that I have said.
You can't stop staring at it, can you? It's rough.
To imply something that is negative about people who are Jewish. I never said those things. And I want to point out.
You're right. It's not enough to be Jewish. Sammy Davis Jr.'s fucked. You have to be an Ashkenazi Jew. Way to dance around the specifics, asshole.
Also, that the chairman pointed to Dennis Kucinich, who's fighting behind me. There is no two people in the country who feel more differently about American politics than these two people.
He means Jim Jordan.
And yet they were friends. Dennis attended his children's basketball games, attended his daughter's wedding. This is what we need, how we need.
Yes, and Dennis Kucinich was effectively, we learned later, a wolf in sheep's clothing. That's kind of the point. Dennis Kucinich used to go to ball games and hang around and pal around with Jim Jordan, and he gave a pro-Assad interview on Fox News to help Assad assert that they didn't use chemical weapons and blame it on rebels. And he took $20,000 to speak on their behalf, and he got campaign financing issues because of it.
To start treating each other in this country, we have to stop trying to destroy each other.
Hey, asshat, nobody tried to destroy you. You sat in an Upper East Side restaurant during a Q&A with press people and donors when a fight broke out about vaccines, and the guy who threw the thing on your behalf started farting so loudly, he was farting louder than he was yelling, and then he yelled, "I am farting." I'm not kidding. That actually happened. And then there was a Q&A. I hope somebody opened a window. I'm just saying.
Marginalized, to vilify, to gaslight each other. We have to find that place inside of ourselves of light, of empathy, of compassion.
Wait, is Marianne under the table with her hand up his ass right now? Yeah, you can't fall back and throw Marianne Williamson in front of you.
And above all, We need to elevate the Constitution of the United States, which was written for hard times, and that has to be the premier compass for all of our activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to raise a point of order.
Gentlelady can state a point of order.
Point of order pursuant to House Rule 11, Clause 2, which Mr. Kennedy is violative of. I move that we move into executive session because Mr. Kennedy has repeatedly made despicable anti-Semitic and anti-Asian comments as recently as last week.
Yeah, so she reads through his stuff, and there's a big back and forth on this. But everybody's supposed to get 5 minutes. He got 9. Just saying for the record. Let me be abundantly clear. Nobody put Robert F. Kennedy in this position except Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Nobody. They didn't go and dig up an old errant comment, hot mic thing from a decade and a half ago. He said this last week. And he said it with like this shrugging kind of, well, there's an argument that blah, blah, blah. Like he's on Joe Rogan. That's what it is. He thinks the entire fucking political discourse in our country is shit you would say on Rogan. In which case, he can get fucked. Because everybody can point out that either he believes it, and that's horrible. He welcomes that kind of information because he assumes that about his fellow human beings, specifically the Chinese and Jewish ones, which is fucking horrible. Or he's so lazy in his thinking and his concept of interaction with regular people that he'll just throw that shit out in conversation at a dinner table in a restaurant on the Upper East Side, where he's doing where the press is gathered on his behalf. Never mind when my Uncle Teddy would bring people by the compound and I hated Orrin Hatch because I was an environmental lawyer. He wasn't an environmental lawyer. He had a rehab tour as an environmental lawyer dealing only with U.S. pollution-related stuff. He wasn't like a forerunner on climate or any of that stuff. And then what did he dovetail into? What was the Julia Roberts movie? I'm blitzing on the name right now. Where she played an environmental lawyer and then there was if you'll recall, there was Silkwood as well, the movie about with Cher and was it? Yeah, Aaron Brockovich. Thank you. The Cher movie, Silkwood. Her and the concept being is that there was a whole movement in the United States around that time. Pelican Brief. Well, Pelican Brief is a different one. Meryl Streep and Cher were in Silkwood, and then the Pelican Brief one was not Aaron Brockovich, but there was a trend in telling those stories. But that happened mid-'70s. Remember the old ads about pollution and throwing garbage out your window with the crying Italian? Remember all that stuff? Right. Right around that time, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was on a rehab tour for the family. And where did he end up going? He started out talking about stuff that was sort of generally germane. Poison, like people poisoning aquifers and water and that kind of stuff. Pretty standard run-of-the-mill fighting back on chemical companies dumping stuff. There's a line down the block of lawyers and people who were fighting that kind of shit at the same time. Around a myriad of environmental issues. A lot of them, by the way, after dealing with it in the United States, then again moved on to dealing with them in places like Africa, where I would say, I think I told you guys this a while back, but remember when the BP guy, when we had the Gulf, the oil spill in the Gulf, and that guy he said, I just want my life back. He didn't quite understand what was the big deal. And the reason he thought that was because his contemporaries at Exxon dumped that same amount of oil that was dumped into the Gulf at that point from the BP spill into the rivers of the Congo every year and had been doing it for over a decade. So he was like, why the fuck is everybody bitching? This is a one-off. So the people who were after him and secured the cleanup and secured the funding and all that kind of stuff, a lot of them, after that shit, moved on and talk about pollution and oil pipeline leakages and other shit like that all over the world. They are part of a greater like ecosphere. That's not what RFK did. RFK singularly stayed in the country, essentially, and just became an anti-vaxxer. He just went out, he found a preservative in vaccines that was used a while back and believed, hook, line, and sinker that was the cause of autism and the like. And he liked the Hollywood women that were promoting that at the time, who were talking about it. Look at the crowd who was pushing the autism vax related stuff in the late 80s, early 90s. You'll find a fair amount of attractive Hollywood moms. Nobody gets points just for showing off their bona fides or joining that, especially when they have a financial and family history background that allows them to just kind of pick. Jenny McCarthy was one, absolutely. And RFK Jr. in his own books, I would like to remind everybody that he was the early Hunter Biden. Like fucking around on his wives. His wife apparently committed suicide because she had discovered his journal about the women that he had sex with. And quite frankly, he's out there I wouldn't doubt, scooping up hippie ass, that's why he's posting pictures shirtless and that kind of stuff. This is just another tour for that. So the idea that somehow, like, he's coming off like Mother Teresa and that the Democrats, of all people, are censoring him because they dug up something he said a long time ago. It was last week. Yes, his second wife committed suicide. It's really sad. This was last week. He said this last week. He is basically angry with the Jews on that panel and anybody else who doesn't think it's right to say what he said about Chinese people and Ashkenazi Jews, of which, by the way, I'm one of those people. I saw the entire conversation that he had, and no tap dance, like, there's an argument. Fuck off. That's just your way of skating around it in case anybody catches you later, and you can go, well, I mean, there's obviously... Get out of here. And again, you're running for fucking president. And you're mad because people are calling you on it? He was literally spitting mad about that. So to him, I would say, fuck you. You made your bed. Sleep in it. And don't... I think the absolute most telling aspect of the whole thing is that his defense of what he said and how the last week has gone for his campaign is to hold up a letter that other people wrote that castigated him for what he said and accuse them of censoring him by association and accusing him of being anti-Semitic and being racist. And at no time, other than his, like, I defend Israel, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I got news for you. First of all, there are people who defend Israel because they want all the Jews to move there to one spot so that when Jesus comes back, they can all be killed for not believing he was the Messiah in the first place. So fuck off with this idea that just because you support Israel, that means you support Jews. You absolutely don't. Secondly, the idea that he was like, how dare they call me this, and this is the worst, and I'm being shut down, and I'm being, lied about, and this is like a McCarthy hearing, instead of going, let me clarify what I was saying last week, and we were in the context with which we were speaking in, because I think this is a very important conversation. You're trying to shut me down, and I'm here in front of this, and I want to be abundantly clear that I don't think that there is a cabal of Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people creating an ethnically targeted disease to kill the rest of the planet, and they're working hand in glove. I do not believe that. I am concerned about bioweapons, and therefore I brought up in the greater context of those things and how easy it would be or whatever, but I am not saying that that's what happened. This was in a greater conversation about the impact of COVID, or how people could manipulate our country, or they could create a bioweapon, and therefore in a greater conversation about that. Now, the reason he can't say that is because that's not at all what he fucking said. He absolutely was shrugging and winking and nodding at the entire concept. But if he had enough fucking brains to be president, he could bullshit his way out of it. One of the biggest problems I have with these assholes is who doesn't know how to lie right at this point? As a politician, it should be your primary skill, you fuck. Other than that, I have no opinion. Good Lord. What a dick. Now, shall we move on to the whistleblower? We talked a little bit about it before because we did some of the opening statement of it. Well, actually, you know what? I want to jump to one other thing real quick. I want to show you. Anybody here do highlights for kids? By the way, this is Hal Sparks Megaworldwide. Like, subscribe, support, pass the show around. Let people know I'm here. For fuck's sake, I'm ice skating uphill against these giant channels. And nobody brings it like this. I love you guys, and I'm trying. I gotta say, crack. All right, here we go. Oh, that reminds me. Hold on one second. Okay, I'm back. How are you? Okay, so where was I? Let's go. Nope. I had to deal with the kidney. All right. So
Yeah. No, she's crazy. She is totally nuts.
All right. I have a question, and for the chat room, and I think it's important. And I'll give you a couple seconds to think about it, and it shouldn't take you very long at all. How many people here ever sat in a dentist's office and or a doctor's office, I suppose, as well, and found a highlights magazine sitting there and did some of the puzzles in it? Highlights for kids. Remember that? Remember highlights? And my mom's a nurse, so maybe it's a little more in the front of my memory than anybody else. But yeah, remember that stuff? Yeah, okay. One of these days, I'll let's see. It's a magazine basically like to give kids something to do. Before there were iPads and Nintendo Switches, there was highlights for kids. Yep. And it's still there, by the way. It still exists. But you'll recall they used to have these things in it that were, let me see if I can bring this up so you can see it. Yeah. Something like, get out of here. I'm gonna drag this out so you can. Here's here. This is just you get a subscription to this, and it's the shiz nizzle. Hold on. There we go. There you go. This thing right here. This is a new edition. But it's for kids age 6 to 12. They sit it in the doctor's office, and it gives you something to do. while you're, preparing to be, miseried. And one of the things they used to have in there that I really loved was and would confound me at times, was the comparing the two pictures. Because there was always one that I would get a scotoma and I just couldn't fucking see. Right? That one you're like, I got all of these, 8 of them. It says there's 9, but what the hell is it? And then it turns out to be like just a line that goes up instead of down, but isn't an actually different thing. It just looks like, and you're like, really? Really? And maybe that was the thing. You were so pissed off about being cheated by highlights that you didn't even notice. They were banging on my kneecap and giving me shots, and I was like, fucking, it was a line. Well, that's not the same thing. He's holding a pineapple in one picture and an apple in the other. That's the standard you set. God damn it. Right? And that is one of the like, I think it was almost its own anesthetic. Okay? Now, I like to show you 2 images. See if you have a similar reaction. This is one. And here's the other. You see it? I just switched. 1, 2. 1, 2. I'm literally clicking. Here, if you don't believe me, I'll slide this down. I'll break my own rule. Right here. See that? See these panels right here? This one and this one? That one? That one. I'm literally switching URLs. And can you spot the difference? It's very subtle. Very, very subtle. The reason is, and by the way, I wish I could show you, I guess, let me see if I could show it in here, because the play button, when you open it up, hides this. I'll show you. It's in the Discord. See his face right there? See like, they took a picture of him doing his, like, side bite, god damn it, face. And then they just use it over and over and over again, no matter what the video was. So this is part of Agenda 47. This is rescuing America's auto industry from Joe Biden's disastrous job-killing policies. We have the lowest unemployment in 60 years, highest employment participation rate in 60 years. We are manufacturing in the United States is outpacing the rest of the world. We are reshoring and onshoring more factories than at any time since the Industrial Revolution. And this asshole, and quite frankly, Marianne Williamson, keep talking about doing an economic U-turn, an economic 180. We got to, you know how inflation's coming down, and you know how gas prices are coming down, and you know how wages are going up, and they actually they got genuine growth, and the pay gap between men and women has narrowed to the smallest it's ever been in fucking history. You know how that's actually happening right now? That's a real thing. Okay. These folks are saying we need a 180. We need to go back. Yeah. So back to less, and yeah, you want to rip Portland, the whole country. Here we go. This is yeah, there's the picture though. This is him trying to look tough, but right now he's got that Mimi Rogers like side bite, like everything all day long is you motherfucker, like all day. Okay, here we go. Saving the auto industry. You don't want to
Clause 2
You don't want to make the electric and the
whenever
cars.
it is asserted by a member of the committee that
Wait,
the
one
evidence
second.
or testimony at a hearing may tend to defame, degrade, or incriminate any person, or it is.
I already did this one. Back off. Back off, lady. Right. Gotta take this off here, and then I'll close it because it'll pop back up again. All right, here we go. This one right here. Saving the auto industry. Here we go.
Joe Biden is waging war on the U.S. auto industry with a series of crippling mandates designed to force Americans into expensive electric cars. That's just what you want.
That's what you want. You want the electric cars. You want to do, like, you want these big computer dashboards and stuff. You know what I like? I like the big vroom vroom. I never got a license, but if I did, I'd only drive cars that make a lot of noise. A lot of noise. so that if you step on the gas, your passengers can't hear, nobody can hear them screaming.
Even as thousands of electric cars are piling up on car lots, all unsold. This ridiculous Green New Deal crusade is causing car prices to skyrocket.
I don't know. Skyrocket. There's the skyrocketing is what they're doing.
The numbers should skyrocket downward.
This is that hyper left-wing group oilprice.com. Used car prices on a steady decline as inflation cools. But that's a long time ago. That's from July 19th. Manheim used car price index owned by Cox Automotive has dropped 11% from July 2022 to 213.1, its lowest level since August of 2021. All major market segments have seen declines in the first half of July, with compact cars seeing the largest drop at 15%, indicating a return to normalcy in the used and new car markets. Joe Biden's trying to make you drive a go-kart. He wants you to drive a golf cart.
While setting the stage for the destruction of American auto production.
By making us make too many cars?
These extreme left-wing policies are
These extreme left-wing capitalist policies about supply and demand finally getting closer to a balance.
Are a disaster for families and consumers.
Conservatives.
And are one of the main reasons the average cost of a new car is now over $50,000. Absolutely outrageous. Michigan gave us Motang.
The average used car. Wait. Say that again.
For families and consumers. And are one of the main reasons the average cost of a new car is now
the average cost of a new car.
Over $50,000.
Yes, the average cost of a new car is over $50,000. You know why? Because there are more $70,000 and $100,000 cars being sold than ever before. Okay, hold on. Average new car price actually drops, but it's still over $48,000. That's the average. What's this? An actual decline in the average new vehicle transaction price, ATP? Apparently, yes, said KBB, which reported that the ATP in March was down from the DOJ and the FTC from the month before. It's been almost 2 years since that happened. The decline was only 1.1%, meaning the average price is still high, just over $48,000. But it's for the first, and that's what he's saying, $50,000, because whatever, they just round up. That's Trump math. But it's the first sign that the relentless upward pricing pressure is starting to fade away. You can probably guess the reasons, which center on increased new vehicle supply compared to the last few years of the global pandemic. Once shoppers have options, dealers can't use as many price increasing tricks. Wait, dealers? Doesn't he mean Joe Biden? Isn't it Joe Biden? But I thought that Joe Biden was driving the prices up in an attempt to destroy the auto industry of the world and America. Dealers can't use as many price increasing tricks. Yes, it is. Here we go. It's been a while, 20 months to be exact, but the average price of a new car is once again below the official sticker price. For almost 2 years now, the average new car price has kept climbing, assisted by plenty of dealer markups that regularly reminded us that car shopping is a perfectly good way to get frustrated on a Saturday. But according to data from Kelley Blue Book, the average new car buyer paid less than the sticker price in March. As KBB's Twitter account said, phew. This, by the way, why is he not doing this behind the wheel of a car? Oh, right, because he can't drive.
Absolutely outrageous.
It's outrageous. Oh, there she is. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen, if I can. That's where you go. All right, come on now. Wait, do we jump this? Come on now. Play it. Popping. Okay. Outrageous. Yeah, that's a sign that he's lying.
For families and consumers, and are one of the main reasons the average cost of a new car is now over $50,000. Absolutely outrageous, and there's never been such a price before. These exorbitant prices are despite the fact that Biden is spending.
And there's never been these exorbitant prices before. Okay, first of all, it's been that way since the pandemic because there was a lack of cars. That's just it. Parts, all kinds of shit, supply chains, yada yada. This shit, what are you talking about? This is just dumb. I don't know why they drafted this up. I don't know who's buying this in particular. Yeah.
Billions and billions of taxpayer dollars subsidizing electric cars for rich people, while normal Americans can't afford to use one, nor do they even want to.
Yes, normal people don't want electric cars. Anybody who wants an electric car is abnormal. That's why Elon Musk is an anti-American stooge sent here to destroy us. Oh, wait.
Biden is killing American consumers, and
He is? Is he running over them with an electric car? Because that would be news.
he's also killing U.S. manufacturing.
Hold on. I'm going to go out on a limb and I think let's see. Well, this is one way. Foreign direct investors spent $5.3 billion on U.S. greenfield manufacturing projects last year. I don't know that that's what he's talking about. Let's see. Let's see. This is Axios. A manufacturing investment supercycle is starting. It's easy to get caught up in the month-to-month economic data. You miss the longer-term trend emerging before your eyes. Here's one. There's a massive new investment taking place in U.S. heavy industry that's set to shape the economic landscape for years to come. The 2010s were a period of chronic underinvestment. By contrast, now there are billions flooding into large, expensive mega projects to manufacture batteries, solar cells, semiconductors, and much more. It is fueled by hundreds of billions of dollars allocated by the Biden administration's signature legislation, the Inflation Reduction Act, bipartisan infrastructure law, and the CHIPS and Science Act, as well as pent-up demand. It implies, isn't that what drives prices up? Nah, it's a good fucking. Okay. It implies sustained upward pressure on demand for workers and raw materials for years to come. For years to come. And makes a recession less likely by creating a floor of activity under normally volatile industries. I'm starting to think, and this is a new thought for me, I'm starting to think that this guy doesn't know what the living shit he is talking about.
In an all-out attack on American-made pickup trucks, SUVs, and other automobiles, Biden doubled CAFE standards, a move that is projected to cost automakers $200 billion.
Boo fuckity who. And it's supposed to cost them that, and yet cars are going below sticker again?
By one estimate, Biden's electric vehicle mandate will slaughter.
There is no mandate.
117,000 U.S. auto manufacturing jobs.
What? Whose estimate is that? Exxon's?
With workers in Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio among the hardest hit.
All right. Well, we'll see, I guess. Let us know how that works out. Yeah. I know they're building a lot of factories there, but it probably won't last. I mean, I don't even know why you bother.
And I hope United Auto Workers is listening to this.
I hope they're listening. I hope they're not watching it, because I know if you look at my face, you know I'm talking out of my ass.
Because I think you better endorse Trump, because I'm going to grow your business. And
I'm gonna grow your business. You're gonna what my business?
in Ohio, among the hardest hit. And I hope United Auto Workers is listening to this, because I think you better endorse Trump, because I'm going to grow your business, and they are destroying your business.
Are they? They're destroying your business, are they?
They are absolutely destroying your business. How
Your business is gonna get destroyed by all those extra sales. By the way, one of the reasons why there's a backup of electric cars, but for the record, is that they are massively overpriced for the average person, and that price is coming down. The F-150 just got 10 grand shaved off of its price. Teslas are going down in price, and because it's a transition from one type of vehicle to another. The same thing happened when we went from leaded to unleaded gas engines. Stupid.
people can vote for you just because it's an automatic Democrat vote. Look how they've decimated the car industry over the years.
Have they? The Obama administration saved it, you fuck. You were against it. He was against the auto bailout. There is no Tesla without the Obama auto bailout, because literally the Obama administration went, we're going to carve out some of the funding for startups that are doing electric cars. If they hadn't done that, we're not talking about Elon Musk, motherfucker, at all.
Mexico has 32% of the business that we used to have. It's ridiculous. But
It is. Did that happen in the last year? Or could you have done something about it? Apparently you're just trying to stop people from coming in.
but they didn't do it while I was president. I can tell you that.
Well, they didn't come back. What do you mean? They didn't do it. We're not. Why, did you bring any back? Isn't that I don't care what happened before you. Also, secondarily, there were a bunch that came back during the Obama administration because these factories were going to close, and then they didn't.
Biden's assault is not stopped. American auto production will be totally dead. That's why I'm going
will be totally dead.
To terminate these Green New Deal atrocities on day one. In my first term, I fought for auto workers like never before.
Like never before. Yes, we've never had a president who gave less of a shit, I suppose, since cars started being made. There's an argument to be made that early on, when vehicles were, somebody ran against these monstrosities that can go 8 miles an hour.
Canceling TPP, which was a disaster.
TPP was against China's hegemony in the South China Seas.
Ending the NAFTA nightmare. The
NAFTA nightmare.
NAFTA trade deal was the worst deal ever negotiated on trade.
Yeah, but you didn't bring any auto plants back in because of the USMCA.
And renegotiating Obama's horrendous Korea trade deal made it a great deal from a horrible deal.
Made it a great deal from a horrible deal. There's all these Hyundais running around.
The American auto industry once, and now I will save it again. Every voter in Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Georgia. Michigan gave us Motang. Gave us Motown, gave us the Mustang. Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina needs to know, if you want to have an auto industry, you need to defeat Joe Biden. He's a corrupt president, and re-elect President Donald Trump. Thank you very much. We will take care of you.
We're going to get that all straightened out. That problem that isn't actually happening, that I'm telling you is going to happen what the shit? I know it's evergreen. This could fit in anytime. Oh, God. All right, now, this is the second one he has. This is rebuilding America's depleted military. Joe Biden said we're running out of 5.56, and I'm 5'6", I'm 6'5" right now, so I could fix that immediately. Yeah, this is same picture. So don't think that I changed anything in the background. You're like, what is it? Is there? All right. So this is This is him. He's going to right after he fixes the auto industry, which is being destroyed because of our pro-union president. He's now going to fix the depleted military, which, if I'm not mistaken, got a raise last year. Why are we giving so many things to Ukraine just because they're in an actual hot war and we're not in a hot war?
In a period of less than 1 week, Joe Biden accidentally admitted that we're sending cluster bombs to Ukraine because the United States is running out of ammunition.
No. Russia's running out of ammunition, and so they're going to start using bigger missiles, and this is a time when the Ukrainians could surge through, so having cluster bombs is a perfect time for a counteroffensive, and that would help them.
I don't know how that works, but
I know you don't. You were only president for 4 fucking years. Run that by me again, stupid.
1 week, Joe Biden accidentally admitted that we're sending cluster bombs to Ukraine because the United States is running out of ammunition. I don't know how that works, but that's what he said.
I don't know how that works. Okay, hold on one second, if I may. Just let me try to find the okay. Let's see. I don't know. It's gotten so bad that they've cut the price of 5.56. You can get 1,000 rounds of it from PMC for $4.29. It used to cost you $4.44. So the timing is right. Add to cart. 1,000 rounds of 5.56. That's okay. Add to cart. Add to cart. Add to cart. Add to cart. 74 ready to ship. 78 ready to ship. 81 of the Igman 5.56. That's a 55 grain. These are all 55 grains. These are loud motherfuckers. You're gonna have to. That's a 62 grain. That's even louder. None of this is gonna work with a silencer. If you're a nutcase, there's some Winchester. That's 62 grain. That's 1,000 rounds. That's gonna cost you $4.80. It's the extra grains that are gonna cause that. Here's a bulk box of it of 1,000 rounds. 5.56. That's $5.49. Yep. I don't know where anybody's gonna find this. What are they selling? 20 rounds. Smaller capacity. They only have 128 of those ready to ship, the small boxes. 84 ready to ship, 35. Here's 420 rounds of 5.56 for $3.49 by Winchester in an ammo can. There's 35 of them. You can get 35 of them. They're $3.49 a piece. Here's an old box, 20 round. Look at that box. It looks like something you find on your grandpa's shelf. We're out of 5.56, I guess. Now, granted, I mean, I only went to bulkammo.com to find that, so I'm certain that they're out everywhere else.
Then he called.
I haven't checked Walmart. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can do Walmart. 223. Let's see. Ammo box. I don't know if they are even allowed to sell it on their regular site. Shop for gun ammo at Walmart. Let's see. There's a 50 cal gun ammo can. Let's see. Brand, speed, custom officers, some price, pickup, and shifting velocity. And see if let's get. I mean, obviously, we're gonna get some. I want the really fast shit. Let's go in here. You get there's a hollow point 357 and get a Crossman Premier 22 cal heavy domed 19 grain pellet for pellet rifles. Okay. All right. So anyways, we're out. We're just out. They only have 35 boxes ready to ship to consumers.
Up reserve forces to ship them to Europe, proving that we are running out of troops. And
we're running out of troops. The Russians have killed so many American soldiers that we're running out. We had to send 1,000 to Europe.
That's also a fact.
That's also a fact. Say this
again.
1
week, Joe Biden accidentally admitted that we're sending cluster bombs to Ukraine because the United States is running out of ammunition. I don't know how that works, but that's what he said. Then he called up reserve forces to ship them to Europe, proving that we are running out of troops.
Yep, we're out of them. I guess. Who keeps sending our troops to the front line to get killed? I mean, what's the death rate at this point? I mean, come on. At a certain point, do you think we're getting the real number? Hold on, blink. Does anybody get right?
And that's also a fact.
That's also a fact.
Action replays in magnified fashion.
Yes, it is.
We have very few people signing up to join our military. These actions reveal just what an insanely dangerous situation Biden and the demented warmongers have led us into.
The demented warmongers, I would think the people who start and sell wars, which would be Vladimir Putin in this, but no.
Less than 3 years ago, I'd fully rebuilt the United States military and steered America into such a strong global position that peace was breaking out all over the world.
Yes, the Abraham Accord, they were great. Abraham, if it named after the guy who almost killed his son until God told him not to and said, do it to Eric, but Don has got your name, it's a mess, don't do it. And,
we had peace through strength.
well, I mean, peace through letting strong dictators, I guess, plan to attack countries and know that you wouldn't do anything about it.
29 months later, the arsenals are empty, the stockpiles are bare. The
stockpiles are bare. There's nothing. We've got nothing. We don't even have any nukes. We used all the nukes.
treasury is drained, the ranks are being hollowed.
The treasury is drained. We're out of money, folks. Maybe that's why see, I thought there were too many dollars in circulation, and apparently they're just all gone.
Out. Our country has been totally humiliated, and we have a corrupt, compromised president, crooked Joe Biden, who is dragging us into World War III, and that's what's happening.
He's dragging us into World War. We don't want to go, but he's gonna make us. He's dragging us right into it. He's like, "Come on, it's World War III." We're like, "Come on, I don't want to. I want to go to the candy aisle."
On behalf of a nation that paid his family millions and millions of dollars in obvious bribes. All you
Jealous much?
have to do is take a look at how much China, how much Ukraine have paid the Biden family.
And you wonder why hasn't China just taken Taiwan already? I mean, they paid more than Ukraine did. I mean, I don't understand.
It's a total disgrace and a very dangerous one.
A dangerous disgrace. Those are the worst kind, I think, honestly. Yeah.
I've been involved in the two greatest scams in American history. These circumstances, the notion that we would even consider admitting Ukraine into NATO at this time is completely unhinged. Joe Biden can't.
You do realize that Biden's the holdout on it, right? He's one of I think there's two holdouts, but primarily Biden's like, no, the rules are you can't join NATO during a hot war. That'd be ridiculous. And Biden's the one pushing that specifically.
Can't even walk up a flight of stairs on Air Force One, and he can't.
You can't drive a car. You could never drive a car. You are incapable of driving a car. Your whole fucking life. The dude rides a bicycle. You can't ride a bicycle at all. You never could.
Put two sentences together. The last thing.
And he kicked your ass. That must hurt.
That this incompetent administration should be doing is risking war with a nuclear-armed Russia or China or other countries.
Which other? I don't remember. If I was if you let me be president, I'll figure out what other countries have nuclear bombs. I think is it Afghan? No, was it Dagestan? It's one of the stands have them. I know somebody brought it up at a meeting.
We have somebody that doesn't have a clue representing us. When I'm back in the White House,
it's somebody who doesn't have a clue representing us against all these countries that have nukes like Russia, China, and they gave me a piece of paper once. I stuffed it in a box between two pictures. It was there. They gave me a list. I showed it to a couple of Saudi golfers once. I mean, you know what? Let me call them real quick. I'm going to text them.
so on day one, We are returning to a foreign policy that puts America's interests first. America's chief interest in Eastern Europe is peace and stability.
Stability, yes. And nothing's more stable than giving Russia their permission to salami slice their way across Europe.
We want people to stop dying.
Yeah, quit it, okay? Ukrainians, if Russia bombs your apartment building, just walk it off. We want people to stop dying. The Russians can keep raping, that's fine.
This war should never have happened, but it is long past time to end the senseless death and destruction. The numbers are much worse than you're reading about or hearing about or than they're telling you.
On Russia's side.
Many more people are dying than you have any idea.
Well, it's I know this because I still got somebody feeding me documents. I put them in my desk.
And certainly many more than they're willing to say.
Yes, they don't want to tell you. They don't want to let you know who's dying because they're afraid you might get the wrong impression about the Russians.
Then, as I work to again rebuild America's military strength and deterrence that Joe Biden so foolishly squandered, we need to take a long, hard look at defense procurement and our defense industrial base.
Yeah, what I'm trying to do, basically, I've run out of donors and I need somebody for my legal defense. So what I'm going to do right now is just ring the dinner bell for what they call the military industrial complex. I'm going to let you guys know that we're going to stockpile a bunch of stuff. We're going to pay through the rectum for all these things.
Because it's been withered down to nothing. Given all the money we spend on the
There's a lot of edits in this one. Like he gave up halfway through.
Pentagon, it's unacceptable that we would ever run out of ammunition or be unable to quickly produce the weapons needed. I will provide record funding for our military just...
Yeah. Again, you do realize that a bunch of the people... Why would you provide record funding for a military if you don't intend on using that to support Ukraine or other countries at all? What the fuck do you need it for? You just stockpiling shit so it can rust? Of course he is. He wants the big donor dollars. That's what he's asking for. None of them are going to fucking give it to him because, quite frankly, the hidden truth about all these other companies, especially companies like Boeing and Northrop Grumman and stuff, is that they make a tremendous amount of money in consumer electronics and in consumer airplanes, just like, regular, like 747s and the like. The military stuff it's definitely an ongoing contract and they definitely count on it or whatever, but it's a lot easier for them to just sell worldwide if they don't have a military contract in some cases.
As I did 4 great years, if you think about what we were able to do, 4 great years of rebuilding our...
Well, a year and a half. And then, of course, the dew came off the lily of, what Obama had been doing. And then you had your tax cut and then it wasn't paid for. And so we headed in towards a recession. And the recession happened right around the time you fucked up COVID. But it's pristine.
Military,
pristine.
And we rebuilt it bigger and better and stronger than ever before.
All right, then why are we behind on ammo? Why don't we have all the stuff we need? This isn't even that big a war in Ukraine. We're not giving them everything. If you rebuilt it bigger and better and stronger than ever before, we were able to lease gear and give guns to Germany to France and England and Spain against Germany and Italy, and fight against Japan, and give stuff to China.
And now look at what's happened. And
It's so sad.
Have no ammunition, as told stupidly by our president to the world so that everybody could know it. But I will also insist.
Yep, they were waiting for that's why they rushed in here and attacked us. We're out of ammo. You do realize that a war with the United States will not involve 5.56, right?
That we get more for every dollar spent, because we're spending too much money foolishly and our prices are too high.
Yes, that's the problem. I will bring down the cost of 5.56 when you go to if you want to, you got to get in here. You got to give it a try. If you go to support my campaign by going to bulkammo.com, pick up a box of 5.56. The 55 grade full metal jacket is going for $4.29. We got 8 cases. We should have 100 cases. We should, some people say 1,000 cases, maybe 2,000 cases. You'll be able to go to trumpammo.com. It's as good as the steaks in the water. So every third shell will blow up in the chamber and take your eye out.
In addition,
Just ask Stuart Rhodes. Thanks, Don.
I will ask Europe to reimburse us for the cost of rebuilding the stockpiles sent to Ukraine, which they should be doing now, but Joe Biden is too weak and too disrespected to even ask. The fact is that
and is not enough of an asshole to ask for.
We've spent almost $200 billion in helping Ukraine, and Europe has spent just a tiny fraction of that amount. As Biden's call-up of reserve troops show, we also clearly need to address the embarrassing recruitment situation in the USA. Joe Biden's woke policies and political purges have
It's allowed too many black people and women into the armed forces, and it's keeping all the rednecks out.
repulsed many great patriots from serving. They don't want to serve in our military. Frankly, they disrespect.
Well, then they're not great patriots. How can you be a great patriot of the United States, which is the most inclusive country on the planet, if you don't want to serve to protect people that aren't like you? I know what it is. You and I think patriotism are two different.
Our president, that's a big factor. I will restore the proud culture and honor traditions of America's armed forces.
As no other draft-dodging, flat-footed, bone-spur, rich, second-generation rich kid could possibly do.
And there will be no Marxism allowed.
None? So the VA shutting down, I guess there's no... I'm fucking around. It's not so
No communism allowed.
No communism allowed at all. Everybody gets... There's no more bunkers. There's no community. Nobody's staying together.
And we'll get rid of the fascists.
All right. So there are fascists in there now. You talking about the people you hired, or?
Thank you very much.
That's the end of it. Okay, we're out of 5.56, but you know what we're loaded up with? Commies, Marxists, fascists. We're not going to let any commies and Marxists in, and we're going to get the fascists out. Some of them are still left over from my administration, so goodbye. You're not wrong. That is absolute gibberish. Let's see, what's this one? Oh yeah. How long is this guy? This is I'm just saying.
It's Monday night.
Okay, so
It's Monday night.
and Monday night. So apparently there's an issue with MTG. We got to jump to this real quick because I'm going to run out of time. This is I thought Sean Spicer I guess he was on Newsmax, and now he's on RAV. He got picked up by Mike Pillow, something like that. By the way, like, subscribe. It's House Sparks Megaworldwide. Come on, hit that thing, whatever. No Marxist. If you're a communist, don't give a like. Don't do it. If you're a fascist, unlike the show right now. I don't like you, and I mean it.
In your district, and I've spoke to grassroots activists in your district.
A fishy requisite.
That are not happy, Marjorie. I said, enough's enough.
Yeah, so Pritchard had some really tough.
Oh my gosh. That's terrible. Oh God. They betrayed her constituents. They don't like it. Ever since she supported Kevin McCarthy. She did it. I don't know why she did it, but she did it. And ever since, she's been very bad.
Tough words for MTG, even more harsh than what we played for you there. Now, he
Oh, it's terrible. He said naughty words.
speculates that perhaps the reason why MTG is kind of aligning herself a little bit more with the establishment is so that she can try to make...
So she can get access to naked pictures of Hunter Biden, which is reason enough. I think anybody would want to do
herself, quote, a little bit more palatable to the rest of the state of Georgia.
Yeah, please tell me she's going to try and run for statewide office next. Yeah, this is her. This is her. She broke the revenge porn and non-consensual nude clauses of Washington, D.C. and her own state in an attempt to tee herself up to be a senator.
He thinks she's going to run for Senate.
Oh, no. Please do.
In 2026. Of course, that's just speculation on his part. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But Ed, I know you sat down with MTG there in West Palm past weekend. You asked her about some of this criticism. What did she have to say? What's her side?
Well, she said, what did she say about, and by the way, did Trump call in on the red phone? That's what I want to know. And sending my sunny thoughts to your man, sending sunny thoughts your way. That's wonderful. We don't like the background, which looks oddly enough like a demo house on a hill in Nevada.
Interesting, because I was stunned, and I think some people criticized me in the audience saying you were too gentle on her, but I didn't want to attack her right out of the gate. I want to give her a fair chance to respond. And I said, a lot of people in the audience speak directly to them. I'll get out of the way.
You know that's not Marjorie Taylor Greene. They're both blonde, but this woman has nowhere near the shoulders or the clean and jerk that
I had a beat off.
No.
I don't think you're true to the MAGA base, Karen. And she kind of looked at me like, what are you talking about? And then said, I'm pushing this anti-grooming bill and I'm doing this, and would not address it head on. So what stunned me, Carolyn, to answer your question directly.
She's like, I'm doing all these fake things that play right into their hands that are not going anywhere. Isn't that what they want as voters?
Correctly is, I thought it was a great opportunity with the RAV audience.
For her to address it.
The RAV audience. Real America's voice. Unlike you fake fuckers in the chat room.
Yeah, and be open, honest, transparent. And instead, she pretended like there's not a problem, and it got worse. Because then she, at least twice, I think, in the interview, cited her close relationship with Speaker McCarthy. And you had.
Oh my God, she did not. She didn't say she was actually. She's working with who she would have to work through to get stuff passed. That's terrible. She might as well be going to AOC's house for sleepovers.
That photo up there with the selfie. Her alliance with McCarthy, I think, Carolyn.
It's a big problem for everyone.
It's a big part of this problem.
It is, and you know what I mean. It's funny that the guilt by association that is associated with the name McCarthy is so ironically ironic, isn't it?
Your last thought, and then we'll bring in Ralph.
Well, yeah, you had mentioned the transgender bill she's championing, and that's very popular, and her base loves that and appreciates that in her.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
And one.
I love the Carol Channing. I don't know why I went through it, but that's the way it seems like they're going.
I see her continue fighting on those fronts. But to your point, I think they wanted to hear her address the criticism that
we love the idea that you're doing these bills that are attacking transgender people at the random, that aren't going anywhere and that are going to die in committee. But what we really want to see is something that actually gets passed. Is there any way that there can be somehow, I don't know, perhaps some sort of a bill that might actually see the light of fucking day ever? Is it too much to ask? I feel like it's like my husband said, we paid for a prostitute and she called him a jerk off and told him to go fuck himself, and he's like, that's not what I paid for. He doesn't understand.
Is warranted in their minds, which is the alliance with Kevin McCarthy, which is her vote on the debt ceiling, some other things. So we'll see how it all shakes out. This guy, Brian Pitchard, here in Georgia, again, he's saying, listen, the door's open. We'll see if she changed. Let's hope.
You're boring him so much, he's going to just start reading the paper.
That these factions can come together.
Does she look like she just walked out into the street and a car turned and headed right towards her? I don't know what's happening.
But a lot of people have some concerns, and I'm sure she's hearing them. I'm sure she's aware of them.
Yeah, I'm sure.
She certainly is. Carolyn Ryan, we appreciate your reporting as always. It's been.
So I felt I grew a lot. Yeah. And by the way, I only dropped in essentially so that because I always look forward to it when Republicans shit on each other. Now, All right, hold on one second. Let me see if I got time to do this. Give me 1 second. All right, I got a little extra time, so I'm going to dive into this. So this is an overlap for us. It's a joy. It's a pleasure. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Just when you thought the most useless testimony couldn't get dumber takes, Glenn Beck parachutes in to make it even more idiotic, and I'm very excited. Now, I have gone over this guy's testimony. This is Whistleblower X. And what he ultimately said was the same shit that Shapley said. They were kind of on the same team, and it amounted to fuck all. It was nothing. Seriously. Thank you, Tobias, for the super sticker. By the way, don't forget to like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Also, in the videos that we put out, if you just want to drop by occasionally and go, hi, you're awesome. Hello. I think this is frightening and terrible. What you do is a crime against humanity. Just write something in there. And I say this because I know there are trolls present. Anything you write helps the channel. So just don't use any racial epithets or any, bigoted language. I know that's difficult for you, but just dial it back a notch so it stays up. I want your comment to actually be there, especially if you're like, commie Marxist person of thing of what I do, whatever you write. You're probably C-lister, actor, what are you, long-haired, transgender, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff when you write that is fine. Just use language you could use in polite company if you've ever had that experience. Please use that in your discourse, and that way it could stay up and it can help me with the algorithm, because nothing helps us in the algorithm like our beloved trolls. Oh, God bless you. All right, so call me a Trotskyite. That'll work. All right, here we go. Shocking testimony. For the record, I saw all the testimony. Shocking is not a word I would use.
Well, hello, Mr. Stu, eh?
Glenn, thank you. I appreciate you starting the show with by coming after me and making false accusations.
Well, I think that's the way the world works now.
Well, okay.
You know what I mean?
It is your show.
So you're just doing it to fit in.
To fit in, I want to be part of the cool kids club, and I had
never gonna happen. Also, way to cut a clip together where the rest of us don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Absolutely no idea.
Could have just added a chunk of the thing and then put it a little bit one edit. It's too much to ask. Fuck me, who am I?
What business my son was in. I don't have any idea.
You never talked to your son about any of his business dealings whatsoever?
No.
Well, wait, we had an interview with you earlier this week where you talked to your son about the new job he was taking this week.
No, that's what you think. Okay. Well, I talked to him about that, just not all of the prostitution, drug, and taking of money from foreign nationals.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he may not be doing that. He's probably not. What he's doing.
All right, this is a bit of pantomime theater. I think we'll eventually get to the moving past the verbal irony and sarcasm to whatever his fucking actual point is.
That I don't know. I've never talked to him about it. So that story's kind of falling apart now, isn't it? I mean,
nope,
a little bit.
Nope.
And yesterday, let me start here with Jim Jordan setting the stage. Cut 12.
You know whose story hasn't changed? These two guys.
Yeah, it started out as irrelevant and stayed that way.
Their testimony has been consistent. Throughout, their testimony has been the same.
Right. That's not the point. We're not saying they're lying. We're saying they are making specious arguments about bullshit. They have always drawn the wrong and idiotic conclusion from what was happening around them. Let me be abundantly clear. Here, if Jim Jordan's going to set the scene, let me set the scene for any trolls that might stumble upon this video later, and let me help you out. If you are pissed that Hunter Biden was not charged with a felony and they didn't go after him for every possible connection and all that kind of stuff, they're a couple of people you need to be mad at are these two assholes, because they're the ones who tried desperately to incorporate shit from the laptop, which was outside the scope of their investigation and was not verified as far as the content of where it came from. The material on the hard drive copy that they had of the copy of the copy of the copy, none of that shit that they read online. These guys, this isn't like, oh, we got to look at the real one at the FBI or whatever. They were trying to incorporate shit they got online through Rudy Giuliani and other sources into the case. And if they managed to do it, if they actually were able to predicate any of their investigative direction from stuff they got from Marco Polo, the website where they posted stuff from the laptop, or from Miranda Devine's fucking book, or from Rudy Giuliani himself, or a copy of stuff, or the New York Post article, which is where they source a lot of what they're talking about when they discuss this shit. If that stuff was actually incorporated into the investigation, the entire investigation would have been shut down because of Fruit of the Poison Tree. Period. And because these guys were so entwined with it, and because they were on the case for 5 years, that is one of the primary reasons why the prosecutors thought we'll lose this case if we take it to court.
Guess what? 2 days ago, an FBI agent confirmed their testimony. Who are you going to believe? The Justice Department can't get their story straight, changed 3 times in 33 days, or these two guys?
I don't know which FBI agent he's talking about.
The Justice Department that was found to censor Americans just 2 weeks ago from the federal court in Louisiana. The Justice Department.
Yeah, during the Trump administration.
That said moms and dads are terrorists. The Justice Department.
No, they didn't. The Justice Department never said moms and dads are terrorists. This might be shocking to you, but some terrorists fuck. And some terrorists get pregnant. And some terrorists end up having kids and are parents, but that's not why they're terrorists.
Department that said if you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist.
No, that's not what they said.
The Justice Department that can't get his story straight are these two guys.
Who don't have a story at all.
10 years, over a decade of experience for each of them. The go-to guys in international tax evasion cases. The A-team when it comes to investigating these matters all over.
If they're the A-team, I'm dead serious. If they're on the A-team, we know that by their testimony, there are often cases that involve billions of dollars of evaded taxes. Billions. Not millions. Not even hundreds of millions. If they're the A-team, why aren't they on the billion-dollar case? Why are they put on a case that is ultimately worth less than $2.1 million? Max. I guess tax-wise, that's nothing to sneeze at. But you think on a corporate level across the United States, that's the top end or the middle or the low end of tax evasion cases? Seriously.
Over the world, they've done this.
And then they got, what? They got a shit case like this one?
And who've been consistent throughout. I think I'll believe these guys. I think they're the ones telling the truth. And that is fundamentally what this comes down to. So God bless you guys for the work you've done, the courage you have, and for being here today, stepping forward because you care about equal treatment under the law.
No, they don't. No, they literally, for the record, later on in this hearing, this guy and Jim Jordan engage in some math. And the math they come to is that all the money given out from CEFC and Burisma and one other source in Romania, which they don't really talk about as far as the singular. They just say the country of Romania, but whatever. That all of it together is that Burisma paid Rosemont Seneca, the company of which Hunter Biden is a partner, $6.9 million. And that The CEFC paid Rob Walker and all these other guys all together, the company that they were forming, the whatever that conglomerate, the LLC they put together, paid that one $4.6 million or something like that. And then the Romanian stuff was $3 million or something like that. Altogether, they come to the conclusion that the Bidens received $17 million, which is all of that money together, which means no one else who worked for Rosemont Seneca got a dime. Which means, now that would mean that all the partners in Rosemont Seneca, of which there were 3 main ones and 2 other ancillary guys, everybody but Hunter Biden worked for free. Now, let's just say that you're an IRS agent and you're looking at a company, and one of the guys in the company files financial papers that says he made $4.9 million over a period of time. And it all goes to him as an individual. And everybody else who works at that company pretends to make nothing. They go, no, I didn't get paid at all. Who would you investigate? Would you assume that the person who admitted that they were being paid is the person who's being the least truthful? Or would you assume that the 4 other guys who allegedly worked there did all their work for Burisma and these other companies, and the mayor of Moscow's wife, they did it for free. And so they have no money to declare. And so you as an IRS inspector go after, of 5 people who were engaged in a company, the one guy who admitted that he was paid in a financial transaction and in a business deal, and you leave the other 4 alone. U.S. citizens, but you take their word that they didn't make a dime in this. So they have no money to declare. They have no taxes to pay. The whistleblower, by the way, this is Whistleblower X, in case you're wondering. This is Ziegler. This is the guy who's the gay Democrat and Okay. That's what he's talking about. Would that seem fair? With the one person who you believe underreported how much money they made, but reported that they did indeed make money, and then ended up paying restitution on the taxes that they didn't pay. But that guy who got 5 years worth of investigatory attention and is now getting an entire committee hearing where people are releasing nude pictures of him. Do you think he is being treated fairly compared to the other members of that fucking company? Who neither of these guys are talking about whether Rob Walker underpaid his taxes. They're not talking about any of the other guys. Does that sound fair?
That's what's at stake, plain and simple.
Now, there's a push for a special counselor.
No, they're not going to get a counselor. Nobody gets a shrink out of this dipshit. Special counsel or special attorney. There is arguably a push for neither.
The special counsel to look into I'm not sure what more you need.
Yeah, I have an idea. How about a quo? Now, I don't believe they showed a quid here because Hunter Biden made money as an investment broker with a group of other investment brokers, and that's what they do for a living. So they were paid for the services that they did at the time, not a future service that they're going to provide, especially ones that happen allegedly after Joe Biden is no longer president. But the quo would be nice.
I mean, it's all on videotape, and they have all the documents.
It is.
And they have 80 notices from the different banks that they were using saying, we think this is money laundering. I mean, I don't know how much more you need to be able to indict, but I don't know. We should ask them about Donald Trump because they got so much on him.
He was officially called a rapist this week. a judge found that the jury decided that he was indeed a rapist. Now, normally, good old-fashioned Christians would have a problem with that kind of behavior.
Let me show you how some of the things that these guys testified and how this is all coming together. Now, this is one of the guys, top of the IRS. He's
top of the top. That's why he's dealing with a case that is politically charged and that goes after what was at that time the sitting president's main political opponent, and the irony that they're having a weaponization of the political government. The DOJ meeting is hilarious. But Trump appointed, I guess that guy, Shapley, was elevated during Trump. They were put on attacking the Bidens because they were worried that he would run. And then they promote him to the top of this team after, like, at the beginning of the election year, when it's clear Biden's going to run.
The whistleblower, Gary Shapley. He said they wanted to interview Hunter Biden. And here's what happened. 3.
We've seen this before. This is when they the FBI tipped off the Secret Service that they were coming to interview.
The FBI SSA and I were assigned with interviewing Hunter Biden that day. And the day previous, we went to the LA FBI field office and asked them to the special agent in charge to contact the Secret Service special agent in charge from the LA field office at 8 a.m. on the morning of December 8th and tell them that 2 agents were going to approach Hunter Biden as part of an official investigation. And the night before, all of that changed.
And all of that changed because FBI headquarters and Secret Service headquarters coordinated, and that.
What? Fuck it! You just asked them to coordinate, and they were like, "Yeah, we already did. We knew you were on a flight out here. We already did. We set it up already." What are you saying that the difference is they should have called him that morning because they were going to interview him later that morning, and they called him the night before? Who gives a fuck?
And that information had gotten out to everybody the night before. And
as opposed, okay, so midnight the night before or 8 a.m. the morning of, they had to coordinate this. They knew they had to coordinate this. That these FBI agents were going to walk up on Hunter Biden and he's got Secret Service protection because he's getting death threats all the time. And they knew they were going to coordinate it. So they, what do you think he did? He shredded a bunch of shit? What's the argument? That he had time to call his lawyer and he wouldn't have called his lawyer when you were there? Or if you let him know at 8:30 in the morning, he would, by the time you got there in LA at 9:45 a.m. at the absolute earliest, his attorney wouldn't have already made a phone call and they go, yeah, we're not talking to my client or whatever.
And we can talk about whether it's a highly political investigation and all of those.
It is. It was. It still is.
Those different things. But there's another group of people that was made aware of that the night before, wasn't there?
Yeah, that's correct.
And that would be the transition team.
That's correct.
And the transition.
Uh-huh. Why is that surprising? The Secret Service has coordinating meetings during the transition with the president about his family members. Of course they're going to know about it. Are they supposed to be kept in the dark? Here's the thing, and they keep talking about how this is so unusual. It's so unusual. When's the last time you went after a president who was just elected to office and were sicked on him by the guy that was campaigning to make sure he didn't win and lost to him? When did that happen? Give me just so I have a baseline.
The team is a political operation set up to help the president-elect vet cabinet employees, work on inauguration.
Make sure none of his family are assassinated in the lead up to him becoming president or kidnapped and used as leverage against the entire United States. And therefore, the Secret Service would be on high alert during a transition because they have now been assigned to the president-elect and his fucking family. Many of, who ran against a guy who a lot of his followers, driven by his former national security advisor, believe is engaged in the drinking of children's blood. Gee, I can't imagine
Do all of those things. I mean, is that your understanding?
Generally, yes.
They have
Generally.
any special investigative powers I don't know about?
Not that I would know of.
In your entire history and working in history with the IRS, you ever worked with a transition team of a resident to help set up an interview with?
Notice how he called him a resident instead of the president. That slipped out. Armstrong called Biden the resident.
You ever worked with a transition team of a resident to
Notice how I didn't say president. He said resident.
help set up an interview with a subject of a criminal investigation?
I have not.
Have you ever dealt with an investigation that involved the child of a newly elected president? Ever? Have you dealt with anybody who had Secret Service protection? I think would be the easiest question.
Last question. Did you ever get to interview Hunter Biden?
We did not interview him.
Holy cow. Holy.
We did not. We didn't get to interview him because we didn't have probable cause to believe a crime had actually been committed. And we fucked up.
Cow. Laughable.
Stunning.
This is the same quality of investigation we got from the cocaine in the White House. Like, they're just like, yeah, we're just going to give up. We're not even going to talk to people who may have been in the room. I mean, they won't talk to the principal. They never interview the person that they're talking about here.
No, happens all the time. You do realize that your Fifth Amendment rights allow you to not sit for an interview with people. You do realize that Donald Trump pled the Fifth 400 times in New York. So did Eric, by the way, his son, because they asked him the same fucking questions. So, I mean, you could argue that he was forced to sit for a deposition in the case of when Trump pled the Fifth, but he didn't volunteer. And he certainly hasn't come in on a bunch of these other cases where, unless a judge orders him to come in, and then when he does, he pleads the Fifth.
I mean, it's insanity.
You know the person that should be impeached is Merrick Garland.
Merrick Garland? Does anybody know who Merrick Garland is? Somebody look him up.
You know the person that should be impeached is Merrick Garland.
Merrick Garland. I agree. Merrick's brother is just... First of all, he shouldn't even be hanging around the DOJ anyways, because when people call out his name, both of them turn around.
Absolutely, totally, positively, he should be impeached.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't think Merrick Garland should be anywhere near. The guy didn't even take the oath. What is he doing there?
Because he's the one that is pulling all of the strings for this. Listen.
He is? Hey, asshat, this was in 2020. That happened under Bill Barr, you dumb fuck.
Listen to this. He goes on to talk about what
other stuff that happened under Bill Barr.
The DOJ also allowed.
In 2020. Who was president again in 2020? Dipshit.
I think this is the next cut.
It'd have to be.
Cut 4.
The Justice Department allowed the president's political appointees to weigh in on whether they're charged the president's son. After United States Attorney for D.C., Matthew Graves, appointed by President Biden, refused to bring charges in March 2022, I watched United States Attorney Weiss tell a room
appointed by Donald Trump,
senior FBI and IRS senior leaders on October 7th, 2022, that he was not the deciding person on whether charges were filed. That was my red line.
Yeah, it turned out that not to be the case.
That's a different story. Now, the other whistleblower, his name is Ziegler, cut 5. Listen to this.
There was an environment when we were interviewing witnesses where you were afraid to ask questions.
Why? How did they enforce this environment? How did Joe Biden and the Biden campaign, who were not present, how are you afraid to ask questions? What did they say to you?
Questions that could lead to the presidential campaign.
The presidential campaign. Why? Because This is a private citizen. And for the record, is this similar to the fear that people had about asking Trump about Russia in 2016 until he was already elected?
And this is after the campaign's over. So questions like that, it was restricted, and I was...
How are you talking to the campaign after the campaign's over? You mean the transition team?
So things like that we were limited to talking about.
Or is he going to yawn again? Run that by me again.
That could lead, when we were interviewing witnesses, where you were afraid to ask questions. Questions that could lead to the presidential campaign. And this is after the campaign's over. So questions like that, it was restricted, and I was... So things like that we were limited to talking about.
Okay. Has anybody heard any allegations whatsoever that there was foreign help for the Biden campaign running for office, the way there was for Trump through Russia and China, for example? What campaign are you talking? What is he talking about? I'm genuinely, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. I think his own, unless he was arguing that there were financial shenanigans going on in how the campaign was paid for, which I have never seen a single accusation, even from these idiots, about. And I don't mean just Ziegler and the other dude. I mean this one and his buddy Stu.
What?
Wait, I don't even know what he's talking about. It's because he's not talking about anything.
Who's running things?
Well, at that point, you know, it's funny you should bring it up. You know who's running things? Donald John Trump and Bill Barr. That's who. It was 2020, dumb fuck. Do you not know?
Here he is again, cut 6.
I will also note that while the impression has been conveyed by the U.S. Attorney in Delaware that he has similar powers to that of a special counsel in this case, free reign to do as needed, that was not the case.
He said special attorney.
It appeared to me, based on what I experienced, that the U.S. Attorney in Delaware in our investigation was constantly hamstrung, limited, and marginalized by DOJ officials.
Well, he doesn't say so, but you seem to think so because you think he should have gone further. While you refuse to go after anybody else who worked at Rosemont Seneca, who apparently, according to you, didn't make a dime for any of the work they did for half a decade.
As well as other U.S. attorneys. I still think that a special counsel is necessary for this investigation.
Why? Did you discover money that he continued to have hidden? Is there more money there? Do you believe you found transactions that exist beyond the scope of what you found as far as money hidden and the like? Where is it? Where is this money? It didn't show. It didn't get written. It didn't get spent. You haven't found any other people, even though you were able to talk to people at Burisma and at CEFC and people related to that. There was no other money exchanging hands. That's why the deal was made. So what would the...
One last one. Here he is.
Also gibberish, by the way.
Laying out the money trail against Hunter Biden. Cut it.
Great. Here's the money trail against Hunter Biden.
Right.
Let's get into the evidence, Mr. Ziegler.
Evidence. Here we go. And this might be the part where the math gets really fun.
I want to direct you to pages 99 and 100 of your transcript. How much money did Hunter Biden and his associates receive from the Romanian company you identified?
And his associates. Okay, that's important. Okay, 1 second. Let's see. Ziegler. Transcript. Let's see if I can find. Is that it? Neil, opening statement, committee, executive. Oh, that's executive session. I need the. Hold on, back up. Rat. Ziegler pension PDF, I guess. Books for the political analyst position. Okay, that's wrong. Ginger Ziegler, document Ron Ziegler, transfer, oral history, Tony Ziegler. Got a lot of Zieglers in here. All right, well, I'll have to find it. But we'll take wrote that they're saying.
So that amount would be from Romania. So the approximate total transfers from the Romania company would have been 3.1 million to everyone.
3.1 million. How much did Hunter Biden and
3.1 million to everyone.
His business associates received from State Energy HK Limited through the Robinson Walker LLC?
So total transfers from State Energy HK to Rob Walker was 3 million.
3 million. Was there a $100,000 payment from CEFC Infrastructure to Owasco PC, Hunter Biden's professional corporation?
Yes, Chairman.
Approximately how much was transferred to Hunter Biden and his business associates through Hudson West 3?
So the total transfers from Hudson West 3 to everyone was 3.7 million.
3.7 million. How much money did Hunter Biden and his business associates receive from the Ukrainian company Burisma?
And his business associates.
Burisma paid to everyone involved 6.5 million.
Paid to everyone involved 6.5 million.
5 million. Burisma also paid Blue Star Strategies and a law firm hundreds of thousands of dollars, bringing the total Burisma payments to over $7 million. Is that correct?
That is correct. 7.3 million.
Look at the money.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that those companies got for shepherding. In the case of Burisma, close to I guess $750 million worth of investment. These guys got paid the financial equivalent, interestingly enough, of chafing cream for the handcuff that attaches the briefcase full of money to your wrist.
And what is it that Hunter Biden was doing exactly?
Okay, so Burisma and the other oil and gas companies in Ukraine have newly discovered oil or gas fields. One of the reasons why Russia invaded Crimea and the Donbass specifically was because if you control Crimea, because of maritime law, 275 miles off the coast of Crimea, you control the oil and gas fields that had been discovered there, which is almost all the way to Odessa. So they claimed this area so that they could get those places. Now, Burisma and a couple of the other companies were the companies that would mine the oil and gas out of Ukrainian territory and then create the pipelines specifically that would get the gas out of Ukraine and get it to Europe to other folks. Now, there were Russian interests that did not want that to happen. Russia wanted to use their own pipelines specifically to control politically Europe by that point, mainly Germany. If Ukrainian gas and oil comes online and Russia has a choice to spend their money with Ukraine, which is an independent country that was leaning towards the EU and was having real elections, or Vladimir Putin's Russia, they were going to go with Ukraine. So Russia spent a good deal of time undermining companies like Burisma and the like and filling them with corrupt oligarchs who, when investment would come in, would steal that money and give it to Russia and fuck off. And the companies wouldn't expand, wouldn't build pipelines, wouldn't be profitable, and would be overrun with corruption. So Rosemont Seneca is hired by Burisma to bring in investment, to be their voice for investment, to go out and speak to venture capitalists and giant hedge funds and shit like that and say, invest your money in Burisma, you'll get a return on the money because we will be there to make sure that the money is spent where it's supposed to be spent and doesn't fuck off to Russia again. And that is exactly what happened. Before Rosemont Seneca gets on the scene, Burisma is fucked as a company. After they show up, it's a profitable company and people are seeing their return on investment. It doesn't matter whether any of those guys knew what the fuck the intricacies of gas mining or any of that shit was. Now, keep in mind, Hunter Biden's his uncle rather, James, had not only experience in building stuff and dealing with contractors, mainly in Iraq and other countries, but also in mining. They knew all these guys who were in it, and he could be he could ask him as a consultant or even just as his fucking uncle, hey, how does this work? Are we going to be okay? And they would do that. They would talk back and forth. So anything he didn't know, like, are these assholes yanking my chain about this, Uncle Jimmy? And he would go, yeah, they're fucking with you. Or, no, that's what you'd need, and you're going to need a certain amount of this. How much are they saying this costs? That's for real. If they say it costs more than this, they're skimming, and you should watch out for that. And that's what happened. So everybody who asks, like, oh my God, Hunter Biden didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. These are the same people who whack off to Wolf of Wall Street as if any character in that knows anything about retail or Donald Trump doesn't know fuck all about construction. He knows minimalistic stuff about interior decorating. That's it. He farms everything else out. He's a mouth. He has blueprints around his fucking props, and he's been in the business since he was a kid. His father used him as a tax write-off when he was a child. And again, the way to solve this with these idiots is you're in a situation. There's a gun to your head, and you have to make a choice. It's a binary choice. You only get one of two choices. You have to invest your money in Burisma. Sorry, is that how it's pronounced?
The Burmese executives. So this Burmese, they say, pronounce it Burmese.
So you have to invest in Burmese, and your choice is a timely one. You can either invest in it before Hunter Biden comes along or after. These are your only choices. Which one? When do you do it? Before or after? Honest answer. You have to do it. One of those situations you will make money. One of those situations you will lose all your money. Which one do you think it is? All right. So, do you have a flag? So, they knew what the fuck they were doing because Burisma is a functioning company now.
I mean, how much would you pay the drug addict? How much would you pay the guy who's selling, buying crack, smoking it all the time?
I don't know. Have you ever seen Wolf of Wall Street? Have you ever seen Wall Street? Do you have any idea how much cocaine is done on Wall Street?
Seemingly very undependable and going through hookers one right after another every day.
Well, because he's financially a shepherd, so he doesn't have to be there. He's not hammering nails every day. Well, actually.
How much would you pay for that employee? Because I'm pretty sure it would.
I'll tell you what you would pay. You would pay a hefty fucking sum, and I'll tell you why. Because his partners, who may know more about this stuff than he, are on the job every day going through the numbers. But the main reason that his partners, who you can't fucking name at this point in your transaction with them, with Rosemont Seneca, the reason his partners can't take that money and fuck off, the reason they can't run away with that money, the reason why you don't have to worry about your money getting through is because Hunter Biden's an employee and his father was vice president, and you know he can't get away with it. He can't disappear into Russia. He can't vanish like all the other people who were bringing money in and stole it and fucked off. That's why. You know, simply, if he just sits all day smoking crack and sleeping with hookers, it doesn't matter. Because he's there, you know exactly where he is, and where he isn't is taking your money and running off to Russia with it, which is what everybody else did.
Be a little less than $7.4 million.
No, it wouldn't. Not when you're investing $750 million.
What did
he
add?
I could explain it to you, but I think you'll ignore me and in the middle of it start sucking on a Sonic.
What did he add?
He added his name. Because the name attachment meant they couldn't run off with the money.
Now, if anybody is questioning who these people are, here, let me play cut one. This is the first whistleblower who talks about who he is. Listen.
There's no benefit for me blowing the whistle on this case, absolutely none. I have no book deal, and the only money that goes into my bank account every 2 weeks is from my employment for the federal government.
Yes, and he got a promotion during the Trump administration, and he was put in charge of this case during the Trump administration. And if he's the guy who blew it, then he's going to lose his job if Trump gets back in, and Trump's supporters are going to think he threw the case on purpose, like Durham. This is CYA. That's what he gets out of it.
Listen to the other guy, cut 7.
I've recently discovered that people are saying that I must be more credible because I'm a Democrat who happens to be married to a man.
Citation needed.
I'm no more credible than this man sitting next to me.
Right. I agree. Neither of you have any credibility.
Due to my sexual orientation or my political beliefs.
Which are what?
Truth is, my credibility comes today from my job experience with the IRS and my intimate knowledge of the agency's standard and procedures. I was raised and have always strived to do what is right. Although I do have my supporters, others have said that I am a traitor to the Democratic Party.
No, again, I would question your assertion from the start.
And that I am causing more division in our society. I implore you to consider that if...
No, I don't think so. I don't think you're causing more division in our society. Never mind the fact that there's a dude sitting over your left shoulder with an Ashley Babbitt fucking shirt on. Never mind that fact. I don't think you're actually causing any more division. You're causing a little more confusion because Republicans have to like, quote unquote, a gay Democratic Party member who's an IRS agent. That's the only discomfort. None of my criticisms of what this dickhead is saying or what Shapley are saying have anything to do with their alleged political affiliation.
If you were in my position with the facts as I have stated them, ask yourself if you would be doing the exact same thing.
I would not, because I would be aware that it would be my fault that the guy who got what I thought of was a sweetheart deal was my responsibility, because I tried to incorporate evidence that would have gotten the whole case thrown out and almost screwed the entire thing.
I hope that I am an example to other LGBTQ people out there who are questioning doing the right thing at the potential cost to themselves and others.
Not bad for a Gruber, right there, right, Glenn?
How is this not the topic and not the only talk in Washington, D.C.?
I'll tell you why. I got this one too. I'm so glad. You know what? It's funny that Glenn is getting into one of his I can't believe it, so he throws a bunch of questions out. And there's a reason why lawyers say never ask a question in court you don't already know the answer to. Glenn doesn't know any of the answers to any of his own questions because they are meant to be rhetorical acts of exasperation. I'll tell you exactly why. Because James Comer said last week that the guy who is coming forward is going to, quote, connect the dots and provide evidence of the reasoning behind the Hunter Biden, Joe Biden influence peddling that points to not just that money came in, but why the money came in and what for. That the foreign entities that gave Hunter Biden money were expecting something in return and they got it. And this guy was supposed to come in and tell everybody what that was. They believed they had the quid and the pro, but they just didn't have the quo. And this guy is going to roll in and tell you what the quo was. This guy was going to bring in, here's the policy, here's the signed piece of paper from Joe Biden after he was vice president of the policy that he changed, whatever. But he was going to bring that stuff in and attach it all. And the reason he brought this guy in and why they made this guy testify and why they did it now is because the Gal Luft story fell apart in less than 48 hours. Because Gal Luft is a Chinese Communist Party agent. He's worked for them for almost 2 decades. He's anti-America. He's anti the US dollar. He wrote a book called De-Dollarization. He was talking out of his ass, and he's an arms trader. He was trying to leverage destroying the Bidens so that, with this bullshit made up stuff because, hey, I'll tell a story about him if you'll just cover my ass and give me an escape. And the Republicans were happy to oblige. But the story fell apart. It ate shit in a matter of hours. And so they had to do something. Oh no, we can't bring this guy in. We're not going to be able to put him on tape. So we'll play the fact that he can't be put on tape, and we'll say, well, if he could put him on tape, he'd tell them everything, and that's why they don't want him. Right? They can absolutely send a team through his lawyers to interview him and put him under oath in future if they ever catch him, if he violates if he lied to them or lies to federal authorities and the like, they'll arrest him. He'd already done it once, so there's no reason to believe he wouldn't do it twice, but they're welcome to give it a shot. And then we bring these two guys. So they needed somebody to cover. So they bring in these two guys. And Ziegler had not wanted to come forward, and they essentially said, you have to. You gotta now, or they're going to chew Shapley alive. So you worked with Shapley for years, and they're going to fuck him if you don't help. And they threw this together in a matter of a couple of days. And Comer came on television on multiple channels, on Newsmax and Fox specifically, and said, when this guy comes out, he's going to show you what the Chinese, the Romanians, and the Ukrainians got from Joe Biden in exchange for this money. Things that allegedly happened during the time Trump was president, based on promises made when Joe Biden was vice president, for things he would have no control over even as vice president, and certainly not as a former president when they lost somebody like Donald Trump, who had utter contempt for Democrats and utter contempt for Obama. Why in the world he would somehow like Joe could get him on the fucking phone and pressure him is just silly. But whatever. That was the argument. That's what they're saying. And so this guy was going to come in and say, look, here, we know this money came in. We know he was getting paid for this. We don't think he got paid for what he said he got paid for, which was being an investment broker. We think it was because of this bill that Joe Biden helped get through to benefit the Chinese or the Romanians or the Ukrainians. That's what they promised. And then 2 days later, I think it was on Sunday, Comer goes on Maria Bartiromo and a couple other shows. And they ask him, what does he know that we haven't heard already? And he says of Ziegler, this guy knows the numbers for about a third of the stuff that we have brought up. A third of it. Ziegler only knows a third of the alleged payment information they've had so far. A third of it. We've already heard this stuff. Not only is he giving no new information, he doesn't even know the other bullshit we've already heard. And on top of that, he certainly never at any point was able to tie money that was paid to Rob Walker or Rosemont Seneca or Hunter Biden directly or to a hooker or to anybody to any change in U.S. policy to benefit anyone that paid the money. I mean, obviously, Joe Biden and Barack Obama did a lot of changes in U.S. policy that benefited everyone. But that's just politics.
This is so clear cut.
No, it is not. It is. I almost swore. And like worse than usual.
Well, the good news is you have men like Mitt Romney on it. And yesterday, Mitt Romney...
Mormon on Mormon violence.
...commented, cut 12.
Well, as you all know, today is National Hot Dog Day. And perhaps you also know that hot dog is my favorite meat. I love hot dogs.
Oh, dear.
I had a beat off.
Hot dog is my favorite meat. Okay, hot dog is not a meat. Hot dogs are made from meat and lips and buttholes.
I love them in buns. I love them
Oh, dear.
outside of buns. I love
All right, wait, back that up. I mean, getting freaky.
Hot Dog Day. And perhaps you also know that hot dog is my favorite meat. I love hot dogs. I love them in buns. I love them outside of buns. I love them with baked beans. I just like hot dogs. It's the...
Where's Dick? Hi, Dick. Do we like dick? Yes.
What?
Best meat there is, without question. So to all of you who, like me, are celebrating National Hot Dog Day, congratulations to you, and may there be many, many more hot dogs served in our wonderful land.
Wow, that's great.
I mean, that is a takedown.
Also, I gotta say, like, this is just a weird, unnecessary cheap shot at Mitt Romney. Yes, that's a ridiculous video. There are way better jokes to be made. I think I made some of them about that specifically.
Drop your shorts and bend over, Mr. Babar.
And that video, I have no doubt, will provide us with great joy forever.
Moon River.
You know what I mean?
In buns, I love them outside of buns.
Drop your shorts and bend over, Mr. Babar.
I love them with baked beans. I just like hot dogs.
Moon River.
Right. So, that said, using that video of him doing kind of just random shit for his own constituents because he's a goober, because he represents Utah. Honest to God, who gives a shit? And who puts, and yes, and to quote Dirty Harry, what's the matter, Harry? Rough night, all nookied out? No, it's not this. It's not the teachers getting thrown out of third floor windows because they don't give A's. It's not the old ladies getting their head bashed in for their Social Security checks. That's not what gets to me. You know what really gets to me? What? Watching you stuff your face with those hot dogs. Nobody, I mean nobody, puts ketchup on a hot dog. What are you talking about? Talking about we got our fingers in the dike and the whole goddamn thing's falling around us. Sudden impact. You're welcome, America. All right.
Wow, that's great.
I mean, that is
and also making it like he doesn't care about this stuff, or that's been his response. When quite frankly, you're just taking an obtuse video of him doing something else, which we could do with. You could literally cover, like, talk about a flood or something or awful that happened in the world. Like, for example, as of today, actually late last night, the Russians have now reached the 250,000 dead in the Ukraine war. 250,000 dead soldiers. And they're talking about a Mitt Romney hot dog video. See how that works? See how easy that is? I mean, why isn't that the news everywhere? That the Russians have killed 250,000 of their own just to seize another country for no fucking reason, but their own sort of murderous employ. And these guys are doing videos about Mitt Romney and a hot dog.
Take down. That should be under the headline: Mitt Romney destroys Hunter Biden.
By the hot dog. He grabs him by the hot dog.
Moon River.
Piece of malware called Kucinich.
Yeah,
and his
he loves wieners.
Family. He does love the.
Yeah. He loves wieners. In the buns, out of the buns. And notice the Freudian slip where he says it's International Hot Dog Day when he's wearing a hat with a hot dog on it. I think he's saying something there. Might have been a little graft. Might have been somebody stopping by the old office saying, here, have a hot dog and maybe a hat. Why don't you promote us?
Yeah, big hot dog. That's who did it. Yeah.
Moon River.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks for going after big hot dog now. Ironically.
Is there a little Hunter Biden? How many hot dogs did Mitt Romney get just to do that little ad for them? I'll bet you 2 or 3. I'll bet you 2 or 3 happen. And then after that, he's going to be all over the other hot dogs. And the impeachment proceedings.
All right, I don't know what the fuck. Do you guys know what the fuck he's talking about? I certainly don't. Honest to God. Like, some days I feel like, all right, a little honest reflection time, and then I got to fuck off. I went long today, and I was happy to hang out with you guys because you're wonderful, and I thank you. And don't forget to hit that like button on your way out the door and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. And look at that. Look at we got the thank you, Pezzy. for resubbing. Look at that. Flip-a-ding, boing. It's starting to work again. It was funky for a while. We got some Zoltans in there. Fill that cup up. It's good stuff. So, let me tell you a little something. Sometimes when I'm watching, all the political stuff that, because I drink from the fire hose of the news cycle, that I see the same argument over and over and over again. I feel like sometimes I'm dealing with the same lie over and over and over again. And my biggest concern in those situations is because the lie won't stop, making my rebuttals and my responses entertaining for you guys and making them stick for anybody who shows up who doesn't watch regularly, this might be the first day you've shown up at the show, and I appreciate it. I'm glad you're here. But you might not have seen all the other times that I've covered this horse shit. It might be new to you. And so I have to keep that in mind when I do the show and not fall into, and help. Honestly, being a stand-up helps because you have to treat, CSL, seriously. You have to treat every audience as a new group of individuals every single time. And it's the challenge of stand-up comedy for a lot of folks. I've always had it easy in that regard because I adore you guys and I really do like people, but not a lot of my contemporaries do. Let's be frank. And so, but when I'm doing the show from my living room, from my little offside room, where I've set this show up by myself, speaking into this camera and talking to the chat that's right there and looking at the clip that I see, which is right about here. Actually, technically speaking, I'm looking at here. This is my eye line, so when I'm watching the clip, that's where my eyeballs go. So I put it up to my side, but that's really what I'm looking at. I'm watching it the same as you are, and it's just how I arrange what I'm seeing and what we're both seeing at the same time. It's not crucial, but it helps sometimes. But when I'm going through this stuff, I sometimes struggle with this idea that, I feel like I'm, a dung beetle in the story of Sisyphus, just pushing this turd up the hill and watching it roll back down sometimes. But at the same time, like I said, I don't know when somebody's new or my take on explaining it, which might evolve over time and become clearer because we experience these things and we get a deeper understanding of what they're actually doing. There are days we have a realization. Like, oh, this is what they're saying. This is what they're trying to do. And so I can't assume that won't happen. So that's my motivating factor when I'm doing the show every day. And what I struggle with is making sure that I'm not just like phoning it in around these things. The struggle is real. And when I'm dealing with people like Glenn Beck and Stu and all this, who are, quite frankly, have made an entire career with these ham-handed attacks, and they never seem to, they unflinchingly dive into the bullshit head first every time. So when I'm dealing with them, like I said, there's a lot of repetition in it. And I try not to, I don't want to bore you guys with it. I want to keep it real about that. But I also want to push to make sure that we're all aware of the latest rebuttals, even in these cases. So in doing that, there are a couple of areas, we know the most important of all the commandments, thou shalt not covet. It's what gave us Jamie Gum. What does he do, this man you seek? He kills women. No, that is incidental. He covets. Right. Yeah, and there's a reason why covet made the cut in terms of the Ten Commandments. It's a big one. It's very different than being a striver or greed even. Coveting is, I want what you got, not what, I don't want something similar. I want the actual thing, right? That's why coveting is dangerous. And so I want a similar studio like Glenn has with all the TV sets and all that kind of stuff. Now mine would, of course, obviously run on solar and geothermal, and probably I have my own little micronuclear thorium reactor. I'm working on it. I've been talking to ChatGPT about how to design one on a smaller scale. But I do want that. I really do. I really do want to blow this thing up into a much bigger show and make it a thing upon a thingy thing. Before I retire as the next Reverend Gene Scott sitting in front of a giant chalkboard reading scriptures on my horse farm filled with aging playmates A boy can dream, can he? But one thing I will always fight is ever being in a situation where this asshole is bored by his own lies. That is something, because of you guys and because of this show and because of the nature of it, I will never have to wrestle with at all. There's not going to be a time where I'm like, man, I'm tired of this same old bullshit. Because because the truth's on our side and we have a good time. And more than that, I think this is crucial, you have to remember that